Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Kyuubi gives up everything so Naruto can finally have the power to change the world. Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Uzumaki Naruto. He was by far the greatest human Kyuubi had ever come to know. He was honest, trusting, and most importantly, loyal. Kyuubi could describe the boy in so many other ways, but they would do little to truly credit how great the Uzumaki really was. It was surprising to the Kyuubi how much he was like Mito and Kushina, yet universally different. Kyuubi did not hold the same feelings for those two that it did for Naruto. Unlike with its two previous Jinchuuriki hosts, Kyuubi saw the boy's entire life unfold from its containment within him. It watched as he forgave those that wronged him. How he would never forsake any who would in turn hurt or betray him. How he fought for those he cared for. Uzumaki Naruto was the purest of beings that Kyuubi ever had the honor of knowing. It wanted to do more for him, it really did. Unfortunately for the two, it could not. That blasted Yondaime and his Fuinjutsu. Kyuubi spat out mentally. If it was not for the effectiveness of the seal that contained the great being of chakra, Kyuubi would have been more than happy to allow its user more access to its power, after learning of the boy's true nature. However, the seal placed on Naruto was too good. It did not allow Kyuubi to give its power to Naruto without the Uzumaki's consent. It kept a constant stream of Kyuubi's chakra to slowly enter Naruto, while keeping its influence from tempting the Uzumaki's mind, not like the Kyuubi even wanted to tempt the boy at this point. Naruto could also forcefully draw the Kyuubi's chakra, but that only happened in dire situations where the boy's anger reached its peak. However, the biggest difference between the seal that kept the Kyuubi contained, compared to other seals used on Jinchuuriki, was the fact that this one was actually killing the trap Biju. It was the main reason why the Kyuubi despised the Yondaime Hokage even more than Uchiha Madara. Uchiha Madara used Kyuubi, used its strength and controlled it to do his bidding. Yet even Madara could not do what Namake's Minato had done. The Kyuubi hated the Yondaime with every fiber of its being, but it did acknowledge the strength the young man had. The fourth Hokage was the first person to effectively kill a Biju. It may not have happened yet, but he did it nonetheless. He was the first human to ever create a seal, technically a combination of seals, that could in fact deteriorate a Biju's chakra to the point it no longer existed. It was for this reason that the Kyuubi refrained from giving Naruto its power all these years since his birth. The concept of death scared the Kyuubi, having never had to fear such an aspect beforehand. However, it did have to give up some slivers of its powers from time to time, whenever Naruto was in a life-or-death situation and requested its chakra as rent. However, it would keep from giving him too much. The Kyuubi was becoming gradually weaker, and it knew that. It was why it was careful to not let out too much of its power. The more the Kyuubi gave, the more it lost. The power that Kyuubi loses stays dormant within Naruto, unbeknownst to the Uzumaki. It is why Naruto, over the years, began to display more control of the Kyuubi's power. It was not because of training, but the seal. He could always control the Kyuubi's chakra. He just did not have any of its chakra to use yet. When Naruto saw Sasuke die at the hands of Haku, he displayed his first use of the Kyuubi's chakra. He probably didn't realize it, but subconsciously he was completely in control of the Kyuubi's power. Such an occurrence happened once again when he fought Sasuke at the Valley of the End. By then the seal had sucked an entire tail's worth of power from Kyuubi. Whether Naruto wants to believe it or not, the Kyuubi did not willingly save him. Of course, by then the Kyuubi had come to see Naruto as more than just a lowly human and would have tried to save the boy, but the seal prevented such actions. Naruto's one-tailed form was fully under the Uzumaki's control. It was only until Naruto tried taking too much of the Kyuubi's powers that he started to lose control. During the boy's training with Jiraiya, they tried to push the Kyuubi's powers. At that time, Naruto could control 3 tails worth, but they did not stop there. When Naruto tried taking more than what he was ready for, he lost his way and lashed out. It was why he did it with Jiraiya, and it was also why he did it when pitted against Orochimaru. The Kyuubi had no say in the matter, and truthfully, it was scared. Kyuubi was afraid of when its time would come to an end. It did value Naruto differently than it used to, but that did not keep it from restricting its power as to prevent its inevitable demise. While it wanted to help Naruto, it knew that in doing so would lead to its death, and that was not something Kyuubi was ready to do. Unfortunately for the mightiest of Biju, it did not have the luxury of time on its side. It watched as Naruto completed his new sage training and returned to the village that the creature had once been hell-bent on destroying. It watched and felt what Naruto experienced as he returned home and saw his loved village in its destroyed state. The Kyuubi could never forget the feeling that pasted through Naruto at the sight of his obliterated village, and it was something that it never wanted to experience again. Yet, it watched as Naruto fought the god of destruction that had descended upon Konoha no Soto, village hidden in the leaves. It watched as Naruto fought valiantly with all his might and came within a Rasengan's reach of toppling the supposed god. It watched as pain turned the tables on the Uzumaki and pinned him down. It watched as a female Hyuga tried to protect its user, proclaiming her love in the process, and failed in the end. It watched as the Hyuga fell, and it felt Naruto's mind as it descended into fury. The Uzumaki pried 6 taels worth of power from the Kyuubi in his rage, losing himself in the process. The boy went on a warpath from then on. It took everything the god had to just evade death at the boy's hand. However, 6 taels did not seem to be enough as Pain eventually pulled his trump card, creating a small orb with its own gravitational pull that sucked Naruto up. The orb created a large crevice in the ground as the ball stayed suspended in the air, covered by layers of rock that held Naruto within its depths. However, Kyuubi knew that it would not be long before Naruto tried to pull even more chakra from it. The Kyuubi, upon seeing the desperate state its host was in, knew it could no longer be indecisive. Kyuubi could no longer evade its end. It would do what was needed in order to keep its adored container alive. Naruto awoke within the desolate sewers that he, for so long as he could remember, despised. He hated everything about it. The smell, the sight, the feeling. It made him sick being in his own mind's cape. However, he did not let his thoughts out. He was too haggard to even really think straight. His fight with pain had gone downhill fast and he hated himself for succumbing to the Kyuubi's power. He just wanted the pain to go away. Naruto clutched his head as he fell to his knees, creating ripples in the water that lay throughout the shore. Just make it go away. Naruto thought to himself, squeezing his head even harder, somebody help me. Give me your heart. Kyuubi's dark and oppressive voice boomed around the room, I will save you from the pain. Naruto looked up to the cage that held back the greatest of tailed beast. Behind the large grimy bars were blood-red eyes and big sharp teeth that illuminated through the darkness that was the Kyuubi's veil. Naruto did not protest as he leaned back. His jacket was forced open, leaving his chest bare to Kyuubi. The seal appeared on his stomach as it began to morph, becoming a black spiral with intricate designs coming out its sides. The mark looked very similar to an eye. Blood started to ooze from the seal, more than should have been humanly possible. The blood started to mix with the water Naruto sat in. The Kyuubi's voice echoed throughout the sewer, yes, that's it. Finally, it would be able to repay its debt to the village of Konoha through its host Naruto. Come here, pull this seal off. The blood leaking from Naruto's stomach had effectively turned all the sewage water around him into a crimson color. He stood and then began to walk to the Kyuubi's cage. He soon levitated, coming up in front of the large seal tag that lay on the cut between the doors of the cage. His finger slid behind the paper as he was seconds away from ripping the paper off. Then, to Naruto's surprise and Kyuubi's horror, a firm hand grabbed onto the Uzumaki's wrist, stopping any further attempts at removing the seal. The Kyuubi let out a low growl, "You." Naruto didn't know what was going on until he was pulled back by the figure that had just grabbed him. Through his peripherals, Naruto could depict the subtle features that had made the man holding him so famous. Turning his eyes to the newcomer, Naruto let out in a low and shaking voice, "The Yondaime Hokage." The yellow flash's voice was firm and deep, and commanded much respect. "The seal is set so that if 8 tails are released, I'll appear within your consciousness. I didn't want that to happen. I never wanted to see you again, Kyuubi." Minato looked over his shoulder at the demon, having been facing the opposite direction of Naruto, who was still firmly in his grasp, "But I did look forward to seeing how my son had grown. So I guess you could call it even." Upon seeing the man Kyuubi despised the most, it lost itself in rage. "The fourth. Face me. I'll tear you to shreds. Now why would I go and face someone who's going to tear me to shreds?" The Namikaze turned away from the demon behind him and looked to Naruto, smiling, "Anyways, Naruto." Naruto was stunned at his hero's appearance, as well as the fact that he knew his name. It didn't even register with the Uzumaki that the fourth had just called him son. "Naruto? You know my name?" "How do?" The fourth's smile just seemed to grow. "Hey. Well, I mean, I gave you your name. You're my kid, after all." Naruto was still confused. Too much had been happening for him to even comprehend what his hero had just told him. "Kid? Wait, you mean?" Minato's warm smile made Naruto realize the truth. "Yep. Like I just said, you're my son. Naruto could feel the cold liquid that began to form in the corners of his eyes. The troubles that were plaguing his mind not even a minute prior all but vanished. Happiness unlike anything he had ever felt before filled him. He could not believe what was happening. His hero, the man he had looked up to all his life, and the man he had idolized as a role model, was his father. He had always dreamed of having a father like his idol, but to hear that the fourth Hokage was actually his dad filled him with something he had long forgotten about. Peace. It all fit now. Why he was chosen as the Kyuubi's container, why he always admired the fourth, and most importantly, why he was who he was. In his bliss, he didn't notice that his seal had stopped bleeding and faded away. Haha, Naruto's laugh slipped through his lips as they curved into a smile at seeing his father for the first time. The presence of the Kyuubi was then made known as his yell pierced through the two's meeting, "Damn you, fourth!" Its anger had not diminished in the slightest. It was just seconds away from saving that fool's son, and he just had to interrupt them. However, it knew how that last scene would have probably looked to any others. To the fourth, it probably looked like the Kyuubi was trying this as a means of escape, but the Kyuubi had long ago given up on any attempts of freedom. The Kyuubi knew that even the fourth did not realize just how powerful he had made the seal that entrapped the Nine Tails. Kyuubi called what the fourth made an educated mistake. The Yondaime Hokage was probably under the impression that his combination of seals would lock their chakras together, creating an ordinary Jinchuuriki whose Biju would be released upon the host's death. But no, he unknowingly created a super seal that would inevitably kill the Kyuubi. Whether it is because of Naruto's death, or the seal's other objective of fully combining the chakras occurred first, fully erasing Kyuubi's existence. It was not like Kushina's or Maito's seal, which were just about the exact same as other Jinchuurikis. The Kyuubi knew many saw it as the embodiment of hatred, and they were not wrong in their accusation. However, what they did not know was that Kyuubi was in love with Naruto. Not the kind of love you would find between a man and a woman. The Kyuubi was neither and had no delusions of being with the boy in such a way. It loved Naruto in the way that a parent loved his or her child. It was an unknown feeling to the being of power, yet the Biju was quick to accept the pleasant sensation nonetheless. It was because of such feelings that the Kyuubi knew it couldn't let Minato take the boy away. Kyuubi mentally scoffed at the audacity of their situation. The fool of a Hokage was unknowingly keeping Naruto from the power he had originally wanted his son to have. Kyuubi's musings came to a halt when he heard Minato say, "This guy sure is noisy, let's go somewhere else." Kyuubi claws immediately slammed into the bars holding him back. No, wait. Naruto looked at the Kyuubi in confusion, wondering why it didn't want them to go anywhere. He shrugged it off as nothing more than an attempt to throw more insults and hollow threats. His father didn't even seem to notice the Kyuubi's words as he grabbed Naruto's shoulder and raised his free hand, about to do something. "Please, Naruto. Don't leave me." Kyuubi yelled in desperation, about to give up on any hope it once had. Minato once again acted like he heard nothing. He was about to click his fingers and transport them out of there, but was stopped when the hand he had on his son's shoulder was grabbed. Minato wore a face of confusion when he looked into his son's stern expression. Naruto held his father's wrist. The Uzumaki had never heard the Kyuubi like that. Whenever it spoke, the Kyuubi's voice was deep, powerful, and demanding. Yet what Naruto just heard was weak, trembling, and scared. Never in his 16 years of life did Naruto think he would hear such a thing come out the monster's mouth. The boy moved his sights to the Kyuubi, who was no longer smiling from what he could see through the cage. The way the Kyuubi spoke interested the Uzumaki greatly. He needed to know what the Kyuubi wanted. The Kyuubi saw their attention averted to him and hope rose through it once again. It did not waste the opportunity that was given. "Please. I can't do this much longer. I want to right the wrongs that I have committed. I need you to trust me." Kyuubi's explanation confused Naruto even more. He had never seen this side of Kyuubi before. He didn't know how to place his finger on it, but the way Kyuubi was acting just made it seem so weak. And if there was one thing Naruto knew the Kyuubi was weak. So that prompted Naruto to walk forward, past his father's protests, and ask, "What do you mean?" Kyuubi then went on to explain itself, telling the two about how the seal the fourth placed on him really worked, much to Minato's surprise, and how it had grown to see Naruto as more than just some lowly human. Kyuubi was at rope's end here and wanted Naruto to know the truth. The whole truth. Kyuubi's long tale began with the Jubi and the Sage of Six Paths. How the sage trapped the Jubi within himself and on his deathbed separated the beast's chakras. He trapped its physical body within the moon, while its spiritual half was severed into 9 different portions. Kyuubi made a note in saying that it was far stronger than any of the other portions. From there he told the story behind Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama. The real story. How they were once friends in childhood and then became enemies as respective clan heads. Later on they came to an agreement that established the first ninja village, Konoha no Soto. The 2 blondes were also surprised to learn that Uchiha Madara was actually the one to name the village, after looking at the village through a hole in a leaf. It did not stop there. Kyuubi went on and retold the entire history of the Leaf Village as best he could. From the truth behind the Uchiha massacre, to the underhanded workings of Shimura Danzo and how he seemed to always play some hand leading to a war between villages. At this point, Minato interrupted the storytelling to ask how Kyuubi could possibly know such things when it was trapped within Jinchuuriki all this time. The Kyuubi had already gone over Naruto's mother and grandmother, and how they were both its previous Jinchuuriki, so the Uzumaki was not surprised when his father asked such things. Upon the question, Kyuubi replied, while all Biju separated from the Jubi's original body are our own beings, we all have a subliminal connection to the body that still sleeps within the moon. Through it, Biju can communicate with one another no matter where they are, though we do it very scarcely. However, I am the strongest and hold the closest connection to the Jubi out of all my kin. As such, I am the only one that can see what goes on in the world around me, whether I am trapped within a Jinchuuriki or not. Minato merely nodded, still not trusting the Kyuubi but feigning understanding. The Ninetales didn't care though, it was not trying to persuade him, but the boy that was Minato's spitting image. Kyuubi didn't know how long the 3 were within Naruto's mindscape, hours, days. It didn't really care. It would leave Naruto everything it knew, because Kyuubi knew he would need its knowledge for the coming battles. The strongest of the tailed beasts then continued its story. It talked about how a masked man using the name Madara attacked Konoha with itself under his control. It retold the entire story of Naruto's birth and the circumstances around it. That the masked man who attacked Konoha was actually Uchiha Obito, who was persuaded by Uchiha Madara to go along with his Moon's Eye plan. This was where Minato's attitude towards their discussion came to a screeching halt. Okay, enough of this. Minato said, stepping forward, you want me to believe that one of my own students, who was seen being crushed to death, somehow survived and was nursed back to health by someone who should have been killed by the first? And not only that, he actually became this villain who is hell-bent on making a fake world for himself. This is just preposterous. Obito was one of the most caring and compassionate kids I knew, he would never do such a thing. Kyuubi was not insulted by the 4th interruption, instead it told him of Obito's fall into madness. It told the story of how Kakashi killed Rin, who was apparently a Kirigakure informant, and how Obito witnessed this. Upon seeing the man who he had thought of as his best friend kill his love, Obito lost himself to revenge, which Kyuubi once again noted was the way of the Uchiha. Minato, after hearing all this, shook his head, no, I do not believe you. I didn't believe you from the start, and I don't believe you now. I'm done listening to these far-fetched stories. The Kyuubi saw this coming. It knew the man would not believe the story behind Obito, which was the reason Kyuubi kept that issue as the last one, so as to get all the other important information out of the way. However, it did not care what the 4th thought. All that mattered at this point was Naruto, who had been eerily quiet the entire time. Minato turned around. While some of the things the Kyuubi said were true, which were mostly things only Minato knew about, the other things he could not tell whether or not they were real or fake. He was finding it very hard to believe that he had accidentally created a seal that could in effect kill a Biju, no matter how confident he was in his skills. There were other stories that threw the 4th off, but the one about Obito was the straw that broke the camel's back. He was done listening. The Namikaze grabbed his son's shoulders, "Come Naruto." The 4th looked up in shock when he felt the boy shrug his hand off. When Minato caught the sight of his child's face, he could see the determination and drive that he once saw in himself in his pursuit to be Hokage. No. Naruto said defiantly, taking a step closer to the Kyuubi's cage, I'm sorry Dad, but our conversation is going to have to wait. I have listened to everything you had to say, Kyuubi. But through it, I've become very confused. What does all this have to do with you and me? The Kyuubi's head lowered so that it was lying on the sore floor, doing its best attempt at being eye level with the boy. When Naruto's eyes met Kyuubi's, the blonde could have sworn the demon was getting teary-eyed. As I have already said, I have watched you since the day you were born, and I have grown to care for you in ways that you may never understand. I have known about my incoming demise for 16 years. Within those years I have reflected on the many things that make me hate the human race as a whole. Yet, when I see you, I feel no hatred. I see a speck of light illuminating through the ocean of darkness that is slowly consuming me. I am tired of seeing humans make the same idiotic mistakes time and again. Within you, I see the change that is needed for the ninja village to finally come to peace. I see the Sage of Six Paths within Yo-in-Oh. I see something even greater. Naruto was enticed by the Kyuubi's words. What it said just filled him with warmth. The same warmth he got from first meeting his father, which felt like so long ago. Naruto looked down at the palm of his hand. It felt like he was holding something, but strangely there was nothing there. He closed his hand as his arm fell back to his side. Naruto looked back up. Okay, tell me what to do. A smile broke across Kyuubi's large maw. Come, and remove the seal. I will give you all I have. Naruto did not hesitate as he began to step forward, but was stopped by his father's hand on his shoulder. Naruto, consider what you're doing. This is the Kyuubi. He is lying to you to get what he wants. This is just a ploy to get you to remove the seal and release him. That was very logical, and Naruto had already thought of that as a possibility. However, throughout all the history stories that Kyuubi had told him, Naruto learned one thing. Trust was a must. If the people that made up Naruto's history were just more trusting, then the world would have been a much better place for it. If the founders of Konoha were more trusting of Madara, then maybe he would have been the first Hokage and he wouldn't have created so much strife from his defection. If the second Hokage and other officials were more trusting of the Uchiha, then maybe that wouldn't have inevitably led to a progressing coup. If Danzo trusted the Sandaime Hokage and Nidaime Hokage in their ideologies more, then maybe so much hatred and wars would not have spread from his influence. If even Kakashi had trusted his teammates more, then maybe Obito and Rin would still be alive and be fighting on their side. If Sasuke could have trusted him more, then maybe he wouldn't have defected and become an international criminal. Instead, he could have been a great asset for the village. There were so many circumstances that Naruto could see, if people would just be more willing to trust one another. But, who knew? Maybe all of this was just a ruse that the Kyuubi was making to get the Uzumaki's cooperation. At this point, Naruto did not care. He was tired of having to fight this world of hate by himself. If what Kyuubi spoke was truth, then he would have the power of the Kyuubi to back him in his fight to end the hatred that has for so long imprisoned the world, and he would do so willingly. And if what Kyuubi spoke was false, well then he would be dead and not have to worry any longer about the turmoil the world just seemed to throw in his face. Naruto put the hand he didn't have closed onto his father's hand. He looked over his shoulder at the older man, smiling sincerely. Thanks, Dad, for everything you have done to protect me and the village. However, from what I have learned, I believe it is time for people to start putting more trust in those they care for. So let's start. Minato watched silently as Naruto pulled the hand from his shoulder and went to the seal. The way Naruto trusted the Kyuubi made Minato trust the Biju as well. He didn't know how or why, but seeing his son smile like that just made him know that everything would be all right. Soon the fourth began to smile. He began to disappear from his feet up as his hand fell to his side. His smile was solemn and sad. The image of a newborn Naruto filled Minato's mind. He always dreamed of how his son would grow up, coming up with all these different scenarios. Some were crazy and almost unrealistic, but this was by far greater than anything Minato could ever come up with. Naruto was the man Minato always wanted him to be, and so much more. Minato could never dream up such a perfect scenario for Naruto because in his eyes, Naruto was perfect. The tear that fell from Minato's cheek turned to dust as it reached his chest. The rest of his body except for his shoulders and up had all turned to dust. It wouldn't be long now. As Naruto pulled the seal from the Kyuubi's cage, Minato couldn't help but be proud of the man his son had turned into. Another tear began to form, but was cut off as the dust that was withering him away reached the bottom of his eyes. As the last several specks of dust finished Minato off, he could only think of the bright future that his son would have with his friends and loved ones. Minato's only regret, that Kushina would not be able to see their son's developments. You would be so proud of him, Kushina-chan. Naruto did not notice the disappearance of his father as he looked at the keyhole of the cage that held the Kyuubi at bay. Naruto floated in the air, eyeing the metal spiral that was the keyhole. There was an audible click, and the spiral began folding in on itself until it was completely gone. The door slowly opened, creaking and screeching from old age. When the door was wide open, Naruto saw the Kyuubi in its full form. It was sitting on its hind legs and had its hands cupped underneath Naruto, holding him up so they were eye level. Its 9 tails swooshed slowly behind it happily. Naruto didn't know if he spoke his thoughts, but he knew the Kyuubi heard him, so, what happens now? The Kyuubi smiled. However, it was not the menacing and conniving smile that Naruto had come to know. It was trusting and warm. It was nice to see. Now, I give you everything so that you can do what so many have failed to do before you. Bring peace. Kyuubi closed its hands around the boy, concentrating all its chakra into the boy. Bright white light pierced through the openings between Kyuubi's fingers as it began to wash over everything within their realm. The darkness that had long been consuming the Kyuubi was washed over in a beautiful bright light of tranquility. Pain looked on from several hundred yards away in complete shock as his Kaibaku Tensei was obliterated by a white light that seemed to pierce through the cracks of the jutsu. The gravitational force was destroyed, causing the chunks of earth it had uprooted to fall back to the ground. Through the falling rubble that descended back to earth, Pain could have sworn that he saw a yellow blur dashing down to the ground. The falling debris kicked up much smoke and dust as the jutsu crashed down. The force from the landing jutsu made Pain cover his face with the arm that was exposed from his half-torn-up Akatsuki cloak. It took several minutes for the smoke to dissipate enough for Pain to see what had come out of his strongest jutsu. It was a sight he would never forget. A new Naruto stood before him. This Naruto was covered completely by flaming yellow chakra. His chakra took the form of a cloak that resembled the fourth Hokage's. However, this one looked tattered and had chakra wisps that continuously drifted off the cloak's ends as it flapped in the wind. The cloak's tattered appearance was intentional as it was cut at the bottom into 9 different ends, each having a black bar that traveled up it, originating from the middle of his back. Naruto's cloak also had several magatama etched into the collar of the coat. He also had another set of magatama around his neck, which made Pain think of the Rikudo Sennin. His seal was clearly visible, except this seal had expanded, becoming a large open circle instead of the traditional spiral. Naruto's torso was covered in a black undergarment of chakra that lay beneath the many seals covering his body. His hair was now spiked up, with the 2 endmost locks resembling large horns, which once again disturbed Pain at the boy's likeness to the Rikudo Sennin. His whiskers became bulky in a rectangular fashion, much like the black bar-like tattoos that ran over most of his body. The black bars that stretched all across his body connected with the seals on his hands and feet. However, his eyes stayed red and demonic. Pain noticed that Naruto's attention was not on him, but rather something in the boy's hand. Naruto looked down to his palm once more, like he had done in his mind's cape. Unlike before, he actually found something in his hand. It was a single green leaf, untouched and unspoiled. A warm smile graced the Jinchu. No, he was no longer a Jinchu Uriki. Naruto could no longer feel the connection between him and the Kyuubi. The immense power that coursed through him was now his own. Naruto owed the Kyuubi his life, and so much more. He would do what the Kyuubi had asked of him. It was the least Naruto could do, as Kyuubi's last words echoed through his mind. Become the greatest that ever was, Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto looked up from the leaf in his caring and safe hands to the man he was previously fighting. Looking at the man, knowing what he now knew, made Naruto see Pain in a new light. It was not entirely Nagato's fault that he became the man he was today. While he could have chosen a different path for his life, it was Danzo and Hanzo who pushed a Megacure to the brink of despair and effectively created the Rinnegan user. Naruto vowed to Nagato and all those that had been wronged by Danzo that the man would pay for his transgressions. However, for now he had to deal with Pain, and that meant dealing with this fake body and going to Nagato's real location. Naruto learned all about the Rinnegan's powers from Kyuubi. At the sight of Pain's bewildered expression, Naruto's smile turned into more of a smirk. Like it? I think I'm going to call this form Mesame Awakening. Naruto let the leaf in his hand slip from his grasp, and then vanished in a streak of yellow. Pain could only watch as a blur of yellow closed the distance between him and Naruto. The Uzumaki's palm slammed into Pain's chest. The amount of force behind the strike created a dome of pressure to collapse on the ground they stood on, cracking the earth around them. After the split second in which the immense amount of pressure was applied, Pain was sent flying from the attack. He moved at such uncontrollable speeds that it created a wind tunnel around him. Pain couldn't regain control as the pressure of air created around him from the speed he was traveling at was just too great to conquer. Pain crashed through many trees and boulders, yet it did nothing to slow him as a long trench from where he was once standing could be seen being made as he continued flying across the earth. His path of destruction was suddenly stopped when his back slammed into something. Pain was then shot up into the sky as Naruto had somehow made it behind the man and gave him a swift kick into the back. Pain torpedoed into the sky, unable to move once more because of the speeds at which he was traveling. Pain's eyes were practically closed to keep the harsh wind from cutting into them. What is this? Where did he get all this power from? Pain noticed the yellow streak once more as it pasted him in the sky, moving at speeds Nagato would never comprehend. The blur stopped overhead and spun like crazy as it came crashing down onto Pain's face. Naruto's hands were clasped together as he swung his fists down as hard as possible. Pain's speed somehow multiplied as he went crashing back down to earth. Pain's body fell to earth within a millisecond. Pain's collision with the ground created a circular impression in the ground that was about half the size of the crater Pain's previous jutsu created. Pain left a foot-deep imprint into the ground as he tried to focus his eyes into the sky above. Nagato knew he was losing connection to Yahiko's body, and he could do nothing but watch as his favorite body's assailant fell from the sky. Naruto came down in full force, appearing to be nothing more than a yellow bolt of lightning as he slammed into Yahiko's body. The amount of force that Naruto brought with him doubled the size of the crater they were in, making it almost as big as the one that lay several hundred yards away from them. The cracked earth nearest to them was uprooted and levitated in the air for a split second, before falling to the ground and settling in their new position. Smoke was kicked up from Naruto's attack as it fanned out around them. However, the former Jinchuuriki did not stay there as he disappeared from above Pain's body and returned to the spot from where he first launched his attack. Naruto caught the leaf he dropped mere seconds ago. Naruto was almost giddy at the power he now had. Naruto's mind was drawn back to the object in his hand. He smiled at the leaf once more, enjoying the symbolism that he believed it had to his current situation. He remembered the words of a wise old man Naruto had come to love in his youth. When the tree leaves dance, one shall find flames. The fire shadow will illuminate the village, and once again, tree leaves shall bud anew. The Sandaime Hokage's last words that were engraved into his tombstone rang through his mind. The thought of his grandfatherly figure made Naruto remember why he had become a ninja in the first place. The Sandaime sat the 8-year-old boy at the end of his desk, facing the opposite direction of his chair. The two were in Tsurutobi's office and Naruto had just been caught drawing what he called graffiti on one of the buildings that refused to let him in for reasons unknown to the boy. The third smiled at the boy as he asked, "Now Naruto, why would you disrespect someone's establishment like that?" Naruto pouted and looked away as he crossed his arms. The boy was in sneakers, orange pants, and a blue t-shirt. They were some of the cheapest things Naruto could afford with the minimal allowance he got weekly from Tsurutobi. The Uzumaki huffed and puffed at the old man's choice of words. How was he supposed to know what establishment meant? Because I just wanted to get something to eat. The guy was mean and said that my kind is not welcomed. Naruto was of course talking about the owner who denied him access to the man's restaurant. There are many things you are too young to understand, Naruto. Tsurutobi patted the boy's head before going over to the window. He gazed over the village with a solemn smile across his visage. Naruto looked at the back of the third with interest. Naruto, why do you want to be a ninja? Naruto's interest perked up when the Sandaime asked the boy a question pertaining to ninja. He was quick to answer the old man's question, well, because ninja are super cool. They're super strong and people give them lots of respect. When I become a ninja, I'm going to be the strongest ever. Naruto raised his fist up to his face, smirking, I'm going to know a bunch of different techniques and be super strong. Then the village will have to respect me. Tsurutobi turned to the boy, his ever-wise smile still strong. He chuckled before once again speaking, those are good reasons to become a ninja, yes. But those are not good reasons to become strong. Naruto raised an eyebrow at the man's words. Do you think I am strong, Naruto? Naruto immediately nodded, of course, you're the strongest ninja in the Wool Village. Naruto's arms made a large arc in the air as he said that. He continued, saying, otherwise, you wouldn't be Hokage. The third chuckled once more to Naruto's confusion, that is not entirely true. In this society, true power is not attained from mastering all the world's techniques. This is something many have deluded themselves into thinking. No, when there is something important to protect, that is when a shinobi's true power emerges. Naruto stayed quiet as he tried to fully grasp the man's words. The Sandaime came over to the boy and kneeled before him so they were eye level. He proceeded to ask another question as he looked into the boy's eyes with pride. Would you ever let someone hurt me, Naruto? Naruto immediately frowned at the thought and shook his head, shouting, of course not. I would never let anyone hurt you, Jiji. Tsurutobi's pride, along with his smile, continued to grow. That power, Naruto. The drive that you have to protect me is where true power comes from. Tsurutobi's smile turned into a smirk, proud of the shinobi he had just created. I wonder, do you have it, young as you are, the will of fire? Naruto smirked, resembling the older man's features as he nodded eagerly. Truthfully, Naruto did not grasp the essence of what Tsurutobi had told him all those years ago. However, looking back on their conversation, Naruto now fully understood the meaning behind the old man's words. Naruto's musings were turned elsewhere as he looked around, branching his chakra out in an attempt to locate the real pain. His search was short as he could almost taste the maliciousness and hate that radiated from Nagato's location. Naruto then realized he was actually sensing the man's dark emotions, and not his actual chakra. That was another interesting power given to him by his new form. Once he got Nagato's location, he cancelled Mezaim, finding no more need for it at the moment. Upon deactivation of his new form, he found that his attire had not changed. He was still clad in his traditional orange and black jumpsuit, and had the new addition to his wardrobe, which was the black and red cloak that was given to him by Fukasaku. The large scroll he had previously strapped to his back was gone, being lost in the wreckage of the village. Katsuyu's, Tsunade summoning, miniature form came crawling over his shoulder. Though he had not said anything about it, she could tell he was going to find the last pain. Are you going? You should take reinforcements. Naruto's eye shifted to the direction of Nagato and Konan's location. No. I'm going alone. Naruto looked down to the leaf in his hand once more before putting it safely in his pocket, making sure to not crush it in the slightest. Then he headed for Nagato with Katsuyu along for the ride, deciding to end what the god had started. Neji's mouth was wide and trembling as he continued to stare off into the distance, Byakugan activated. He was sitting among the debris Pain's destructive jutsu created in his attack on Konoha. He sat next to Sakura as she tended to his cousin Hinata, who had just awakened and thanked the Haruno. The rest of his team stood around them as well as some other ninja who were congregating around the wreckage that surrounded them. Neji-kun, what is happening? Rock Lee asked. Everyone could see the giant sphere off in the distance that Pain had created in order to stop a Kyuubi-enhanced Naruto. They also saw it destroyed not long afterward. After the sphere's destruction, they were happy to feel Naruto's own chakra once more. However, the feel that Naruto's chakra radiated with felt different in some way. They just couldn't put their fingers on it. They knew nothing more about the battle than that. Neji was the only one that had a clear view of the battle, or lack thereof one. The way Naruto decimated the remaining Pain couldn't even really be considered a battle. Even with his Byakugan activated, he could hardly make out what had happened between the two. Naruto was just too fast. Neji blinked twice and it was over. All he could make out in those several seconds was that Naruto had fallen from the rubble of Pain's jutsu, appearing to be in a new form that Neji barely had the time to make out. Then he was like a lightning bolt of power as he slammed Pain's body around before sending him crashing to the ground. In following second, Naruto was on him once more to finish it. The Hyuga got another glimpse of Naruto's new mode when he came back to his original position to catch what looked to be a leaf he dropped. It was short-lived as Naruto's new form vanished, and then he leaped away, off to do whatever it was he needed to do. However, that wasn't even what confused Neji the most. It was after Naruto had unleashed this new form of his that had thrown Neji, and just about any ninja that could sense chakra, through a loop. After Hinata was attacked by Pain and Naruto unleashed the Kyuubi's power, Konoha was washed over by a sea of vicious chakra. It made the air stale and raspy, making it almost hard to breathe as the amount of potent chakra extended across the village. However, upon Naruto's release from Pain's jutsu, all of that changed. The same evil chakra that was washing over Konoha transformed into something entirely new. While it still covered the village like a blanket of immense power, this chakra was different. It was warm and felt good to embrace, it was enlightening. The people feeling this chakra were quick to embrace the warmth it brought. Not only that, but as Neji watched the Uzumaki in his new form, he couldn't help think that this was a different Naruto. His chakra signature had somehow changed, yet in some way it was still the same. It was just another thing that mystified the Hyuga. Neji's expression of disbelief did not change as he answered his teammate, I don't really know. All I can say is that Naruto defeated Pain. Katsuyu, who was beside the three sitting on the ground, agreed, he is indeed correct. Naruto defeated the sixth Pain. That shocked all the ninja around. A mixture of emotions and reactions were washed over the small group of shinobi. Rock Lee was the first to say with pride, he did it. Sakura then asked, how is he? Is he injured? Katsuyu replied to her summoner's apprentice, he actually seems a lot better now than he was before. Sakura let out another breath that she did not realize she was holding, while Hinata was on the verge of tears, thinking to herself, thank God. Naruto-kun, thank God. Tenten could still not believe that Naruto of all people could defeat someone like Pain, who had utterly destroyed Konoha and most of its ninja population. What a guy. Gari was the first to ask in a rushed manner, where is Naruto-kun now? Neji shook his head, starting to come back to reality. I'm not sure. He left soon after beating Pain. Sakura huffed angrily, what is that idiot up to now? Even with the Byakugan activated, Neji could no longer spot where Naruto had gone. And while he knew Sakura wasn't really directing her question toward him, he was still a bit too dazed from what he just saw to care. I don't know. Katsuyu once again made her presence known as she answered their question. Right now he's heading for where the real Pain is hiding. This shocked the ninja around them even more. Hearing what the blonde was planning drew Neji's full attention. What? That's too reckless. Neji turned to his sensei, beginning to make a move to leave. Gari. Let's go after him. The green beast was quick to follow, right? Katsuyu's voice stopped them. Wait. He doesn't want any help. Neji looked at the summoning in disbelief. What? He can't do this alone. He's got to be tired from all this fighting. Take us to him. Katsuyu's body shook, which was her way of saying no, I apologize, but I will not. Neji and Guy deflated at the summoning's stubbornness. Sakura then said, as her display of affection for Naruto, well, he better not do anything stupid. Shikaku, Inoichi, and another member of the Hyuga clan were traveling through the forest, having pinpointed Pain's true body. The Hyuga's attention spiked when he noticed someone up ahead. Shikaku noticed the Hyuga's sudden interest of something ahead. He asked the man, what is it? The Hyuga answered back, it's Naruto. The three picked up their speed as they soon caught up to the boy. Inoichi was the one to call out his name to get his attention, Naruto. The Uzumaki landed on a tree branch ahead of him and turned to them. He had felt their presence long ago, even without his new sensing abilities. It was why he slowed his pace, as to allow them to catch up. The three high-ranking ninja landed on a tree branch opposite Naruto. Inoichi was the first to speak once again, if you're here, does that mean you beat Pain? Naruto looked at the three with a hardened expression, yes. Even though the three had entrusted Naruto to deal with Pain, it was still a surprise to actually hear that someone who was considered a dropout at one time had actually done the impossible, and toppled a supposed god. Shikaku asked, what happened? Naruto's new knowledge of the world around him was going to make things extremely difficult for him. He was already aware of this. He did not intend to let anyone know of the knowledge that he had learned from the Kyuubi. At least, not until he felt the people were actually ready to listen, understand, and believe him. Truthfully, at the current moment he just wanted to forget about Nagato and go and kill Danzo. However, he was no fool and knew that he could not do such a thing. While he did know the truth, he had no evidence, and no one in their right mind would believe the words of a child. It was why he vowed to himself that he would be wary with the knowledge that he had. Directing his attention to his friend's parents, he gave them the best answer he could. It's hard to explain. This answer surprised the three once again. The head of the Yamanaka clan said, hard to explain. What do you mean? Naruto's expression stayed solid, a discussion for another time, I'm afraid. Anyway, I'm going to confront the real Pain. Please do not follow me, I want to go alone. The Hyuga was surprised by Naruto's statement, you know where he is. Naruto's gaze landed on the Hyuga. The Byakugan user then got a rush of nostalgia. The way that Naruto was looking at him was the same way that the Sandaime Hokage had looked at him, with respect and power. His answer was short, but firm. It was a simple, yes. Inoichi gained Naruto's attention once more, but why go alone? What on earth happened? Naruto's simplest reply was, there's something I want to find out. Inoichi's brow furrowed. What could he possibly need to find out about Pain of all people? He was Konoha's enemy, and as such should be dealt with swiftly. Find out. Find out what exactly? I just want to talk to Pain. That just increased Inoichi's frustration. What the hell are you talking about? I'm grateful you defeated Pain, but talking won't solve anything now. To the surprise of the three, Naruto did not lash back out at Inoichi. Instead, he answered him in a calm and collected voice, so what then? Should I destroy Pain and his friends, his village, and his loved ones? Will that solve everything that has happened? Naruto's questions quieted Inoichi for only a second, as he countered with, "What use will talking do? He is the enemy of Konoha. We can't just forgive him." Naruto smiled, much to the three's shock. However, his smile was not happy. It was sad and full of understanding. "I feel the same," he said to Inoichi's greater surprise. "I cannot forgive him for what he did to my village, to my mentor, to everyone. I understand what you're feeling. Trust me, I do. But I ask for you to put your trust in me. Believe in me, like how I believe in all of you, to protect Konoha to the best of your abilities." The three looked at the blonde boy before them in silent shock. Was this really the same boy they'd grown to know? He certainly did not sound like it. They also noticed how he had said "my village," even though they all knew the boy was just a mere genin. They couldn't help but think to themselves that they were in the presence of a Hokage. Shikaku was the first to reply to the Uzumaki's words. "Inoichi, let's just let Naruto go alone." Inoichi's silence was short-lived as he turned his frustrations on his teammate. "Shikaku, you." The Noro cut him off. "Listen, he's the one who stopped pain. I'm sure he has a plan." Inoichi tried to protest, but he was once again cut off as Shikaku put his hand on the man's shoulder. "Just let him go." Naruto nodded to the Noro in thanks. "Thanks, Mr. Shikaku. However, I do have one question." The Noro's eyebrow rose at the Uzumaki's statement. "And what would that be?" "Now that Tsunade-bachan is in a coma for protecting most of the Leaf's populace, what will the village do about the Hokage's vacancy?" Shikaku found that as a strange question to be asking, but a logical one. They will no doubt have a meeting between the higher-ups and the daimyo to see who is a good interim Hokage. Whether or not she wakes up after that, it will no longer matter. After about 2 months, a Jounin vote will be held to either bring back the previous Hokage or keep the interim Hokage as our new leader. All the Jounin and clan heads will be the ones to vote. Civilians do not get a say in the matter. Naruto nodded once again. "Where is this meeting going to take place?" Now that question Shikaku could not answer. He did not know why Naruto would want to know such things, but he did not intend to tell the boy. "I'm sorry, but I cannot divulge that kind of information to you." Naruto's furrowed brow was almost unnoticeable. "Almost, answer me." The way that Naruto demanded the information shocked the three once again. He left no room for argument, and the same feeling of nostalgia that had passed through the Hyuga was now passing through the other two as well. The way the Uzumaki demanded answers was just like how the third had done long ago. The higher-ups of the village had coined Sarutobi's serious voice as Hokage mode, because it left no room for argument, and when he was in that mode, you were to obey every word. Shikaku did not see any harm in telling the boy the location of the summit. It was not like the boy would do something so stupid as to show up when they were holding a meeting. Very well. It will be within the Hokage monument, behind the Shodame Hokage's carving. It is the council room. Naruto nodded once more, asking him one last question. "When will it be held?" "It will probably be in a couple days. The daimyo will need to be here to make the decision, and it is about a day's travel from there to here." Naruto thanked the man before turning and jumping away. Shikaku watched Naruto's back as it disappeared within the foliage ahead of them. He then remembered the words his son had said to him upon his return home, before Pain's attack on the village. "Where'd I go?" Shikamaru asked as he took off his sandals. "I went to go talk to Naruto. He's been down, you know." "It's a pain in the ass, I know, but I just found myself headed over there. He has something no one else does. He's going to be a very important ninja." Shikamaru looked over his shoulder to meet his dad's gaze. "When I'm with Naruto, he makes me want to walk with him." Shikaku smirked. "Uzumaki Naruto, huh? What an interesting kid." The Nora turned to the two with him. "Let's let Naruto handle the rest from here." The two agreed, jumping away with Shikaku as they headed back to the remnant of their village. Naruto arrived to this destination. A large tree made entirely of paper. The Uzumaki pried open the grand origami creation, peering into the darkness within that concealed Nagato and his teammate Konan. Naruto stepped into the tree's trunk, walking forward until he could make out Nagato and Konan. "Stand back, Konan!" Nagato ordered, much to her protest. "Nagato," she whispered as a bead of sweat trickled down her pale skin. She was unsure of how this would pan out and was scared for her loved one. Nagato turned back to the Uzumaki as he approached his crippled form. "So peace has arrived, eh?" As Naruto stared into the eyes of the person who had become his tormentor, he could not help but remember the scenes of tragic death of those he loved play through his mind. Jiraiya, Kakashi, and a multitude of other people that the man before him has massacred. He was filled with rage for only a moment. He then remembered how Nagato came to be and what had made him into the man before him. Nagato was the first to break the unbearable silence. Do you hate me? Now that you see me here before you, weak and vulnerable, you want your revenge, don't you? It becomes a chain of hatred. Pain's previous words flooded his mind. I created Akatsuki in order to break that chain of hatred. Naruto knew that it was far beyond that. He knew that Obito, disguised as Madara, had been pulling the strings behind Nagato all along. He also knew Nagato's entire backstory from what he was told by the Kyuubi. However, once again, he could not divulge such information. Conan's words brought him back to the discussion at hand. If you kill Nagato and get your revenge, that won't change anything. It'll only make you feel better. She pleaded. Naruto stayed silent, clenching his fists tightly as he looked downward. Nagato was becoming fed up with Naruto's silence. There's nothing you can do. You couldn't even give me an answer. Your role is to be a sacrifice that allows me to bring peace to the world. That is the right answer. A chakra rod was shot from the contraption Nagato sat in, aiming to pierce the blonde stomach. Naruto's eyes met Nagato in determination. In a split second, Naruto activated his Mezame mode, taking his new form in an instant. The projectile merely ricocheted off of Naruto's chakra cloak and went spiraling elsewhere within the hollow trunk of the paper tree. Nagato and Conan's eyes widened at the sight of Naruto's new form. Nagato had already seen it through the eyes of Yahiko, and Conan had felt the immense power even from their location when Naruto first unleashed it. However, now that he was so close, they realized just how large it really was. Chakra just seemed to leak from him and it felt surprising pleasant, yet to them, overwhelmingly so. Now that Nagato was so close to the boy, he realized why he was no match for the boy. Naruto was starting to fully understand how Mezame really worked. While Naruto had his own pool of chakra, more like a lake compared to others, the Kyuubi's was separate from his own. Kyuubi's chakra was like an endless ocean compared to Naruto's own, but he had full control of it. He could dip into the Kyuubi's power whenever he wanted, or he could just use his own. They were both his powers to control now. Naruto's thoughts once again fell on Nagato as he spoke. I came here to talk to you, but there was something else I wanted to find out, too. Sweat started to form on Nagato's brow, slightly worried what the boy in front of him would do with the power he now had. Something you wanted to find out. Naruto's head hung once again, shadows being cast over his demonic eyes. I wanted to see how I would feel. I didn't know how I would feel if I really saw you right in front of me. Nagato didn't want to speak, but he couldn't help but smile and ask, and? Naruto's gaze once again met Nagato's, and the leader of Akatsuki regretted ever crossing this boy. The overwhelming feeling of Naruto's chakra made a turn for the worst. Its warmth became cold and malicious. It became hard to breathe as Naruto's chakra turned toxic and suffocated the two before him. Nagato could have sworn the bright yellow chakra lashing out in front of him flickered into a crimson red for several seconds, but waved it off as fatigue. Naruto was clenching his teeth, anger radiating through his voice as he spoke, and I can't forgive you. I want to kill you so much, I'm trembling. Naruto vanished in a blur of yellow. The two could do nothing as Naruto came at Nagato with a large amount of killer intent. They were shocked to see Naruto stop, his fist only a foot from Nagato's face. They all knew that if Naruto wanted, he could have killed Nagato just then. Naruto deactivated Mezame, and the two noticed that the boy's arm held out towards Nagato was trembling. Sennin said the day will come when people truly understand one another. He had faith. The Rinnegan user could only look at Naruto with wide eyes. Naruto's arm fell to his side, his trembling coming into control as he took several steps back to build space between them. He continued, when he told me that. I wasn't even really listening to him. He wanted me to find the answer, but I was just glad to have his approval. Now, I finally know what he meant. Nagato wanted to know what Naruto was about to say, but he had his own issues to clear out. But that doesn't change the fact that you can't forgive me. Love and forgiveness can't be bought with pretty words. Yeah, you're right. Naruto agreed, much to Nagato's surprise. It's too late for Jiraiya's idealism now. That's just not realistic. You said you would defeat me and bring peace to the world, didn't you? Nagato asked rhetorically. Naruto did indeed say such things at the beginning of their battle. Even if that's just an excuse for you to selfishly have your revenge, it is your way of justice. That's fine. You're not God. So let me ask. Can you really believe Jiraiya's nonsense after seeing the reality? Naruto looked into Nagato's eyes, seeing desperation and hopelessness. Nagato did not believe Naruto had the answer that was needed, and that saddened him. Naruto closed his eyes and breathed in a long drag of breath. Jiraiya believed that the time will come when people truly understand one another. For that reason I ask you to tell me your story. You were Jiraiya's pupils as well. Help me understand what it was that made you into the people you are today. After that, I will give you my final answer. Naruto was already fully aware of what happened in Nagato and Conan's life to make them what they were. However, they did not know he knew. As such, he needed them to open up to him, so he could give them his answer. This was the only way to get them to believe in him. So from there on, Naruto went about listening to Nagato's story once more. How his parents were killed by Konoha Nin. How he met Conan and Yahiko and they looked out for one another. How they became friends who stumbled upon the Sannin and were trained by Jiraiya. How Nagato unlocked the Rinnegan. How they formed an organization that fought against the tyranny of the self-proclaimed Ankage, Hanzo. And how Nagato was forced to kill his best friend Yahiko, which was the main reason behind Nagato becoming the man he was today. Naruto heard it all before, yet he stayed silent throughout the second telling of Nagato's life. When finished, Nagato looked to Naruto expectantly. Just by living, people hurt others without even realizing it. As long as people live, so too will hatred. There can be no peace in this cursed land. What Jiraiya spoke of was nothing but a fantasy. There were several minutes of silence between the three as all the information was taken in. Nagato spoke up once more, fed up with the silence. Now you have heard my story, so let me hear you answer. Naruto lifted his jacket, pulling the book that had found a special place in his heart from his waistband. The cover read The Legend of the Gutsy Ninja. Naruto smiled at seeing the cover of the book. In some ways, I think you're right. Nagato was truly surprised to hear Naruto agree with his own ideologies. He never would have imagined that his words could actually get through to the boy. Really? I understand you. But I still can't forgive you. I still hate you. Naruto's face scrunched up in anger. Nagato knew what Naruto's words meant. The man leaned forward, ready to end it. Then let's finish this. But Naruto's sudden shout caught the two off guard. He looked back up to them, his cerulean eye shining with a new form of determination. Sennin believed in me, so I will believe in what he believed in. That is my answer. Nagato and Conan could only stare at the boy before them. So, I will not kill you. Nagato repeated his words. You will believe in what Jiraiya believed in. I see, so that's your answer. So should we just sit here and wait for you to bring peace to the world? Nagato was irritated at Naruto's answer. Give me a break. How can I believe Jiraiya now? There's no such thing as real peace. It's impossible as long as we're living in this accursed world. Naruto's determined gaze never faltered. Then I will break the curse. If there's such a thing as peace, I will find it. It is what I have promised to the people I hold dear. Images of the Sandaime Hokage, Iruka, Tsunade, Jiraiya, and even the Kyuubi appeared before him. I won't give up. You that dash! Nagato exclaimed, stunned to hear what Naruto had just said. Conan was confused. Nagato, what are you talking about? All he could say was, those words. Naruto nodded. That's right, those were the lines from this book. Naruto raised the book in his hand. The first book Sennin ever wrote. He wrote this book to try and change the world. Naruto looked to Nagato, who was still dumbfounded by the blonde's actions. The Legend of the Gutsy Ninja was Nagato's favorite book he ever had the pleasure to read. He could still remember the first time he read it, once Jiraiya had finished it. He remembered that Jiraiya had used the same words Nagato himself said to Jiraiya at the end of his book. Naruto's next word shook the Rinnegan wielder to his core. At the end, Sennin says he was inspired by a pupil of his to write this. That was you, Nagato. Impossible, that's just a coincidence. Nagato explained. Naruto ignored the man, asking, do you remember what the main character's name was? It took several seconds for him to recall the main character's name. When the name popped into his head, Nagato's eyes nearly fell out of his head. The man could just barely whisper the character's name, Naruto. My name is a precious memento of him. I will not give up and stomp on this memento. Naruto exclaimed with passion, I will become Hokage. And I will make sure there is peace for a Megacure too. Believe in me. Nagato could only stare into the boy's convincing eyes. His statements made Nagato know that what he was being told would happen. Naruto's words just rang so true. Nagato's hung his head, his long shoulder-length black hair covering his face. He began to chuckle. Before long it turned into full-blown laughter as he threw his head back in joy, much to the confusion of the other ninja. It took a long minute before Nagato could calm down. When he did, he looked back at Naruto with joyful eyes. "Oh my goodness, I have not had a laugh like that in ages. Thank you, Uzumaki Naruto." Konan still did not understand the feelings Nagato was trying to convey. "Nagato, I couldn't believe in what Jiraiya believed in. But you chose a different path. In you I can see a different future." Nagato pulled his arms from the gauntlets that entrapped his hands. Nagato put his hands together in a single seal as he said, "I will believe in you, Uzumaki Naruto Jido, Rinne Tensai no Jutsu." Konan nearly lost it when she heard him say that. "Nagato, you can't." Nagato cut her off. "Konan, that's enough. I have a new choice. A choice I'd given up on long ago." Naruto's curiosity brought him to look at the Akatsuki beauty standing beside Nagato. "What is that technique?" Kyuubi never mentioned such a technique when discussing the Rinnegan's powers. Konan looked at the boy solemnly. "He who controls the Rinnegan is a master of all 6 pains techniques. They say he is outside life and death. Nagato is the 7th pain, able to control life and death." She failed to mention the lethality of the technique with the chakra levels that Nagato was currently at. She continued to look at the boy as his attention was drawn back to Nagato, such a strange child, to have changed Nagato so completely. In the center of the crater that marked the middle of a destroyed Konoha, a large cloud of smoke popped into existence. It was the central site of Pain's attack and the midpoint between almost everyone that Pain had killed during his attack. The smoke cleared to reveal the King of Hell. Its maw opened up several yards wide. Green light started to spray out of his mouth. The green light spread across Konoha as their souls were returned to all the people who were killed by Pain's attack. The people of Konoha were shocked to see the once declared dead starting to awaken, as if they were in a deep sleep. No one could see the King of Hell or the green light that connected with everyone that had been killed, so the reason behind the dead's rejuvenation was a mystery, but accepted nonetheless. Fukasaku was one of the many returned to life. He slowly sat up, noticing his wife, Gamakichi, and several others ninja that he'd heard about through Naruto. "Ma, where am I?" Shima was shocked to see her lover awaken. "OPA." Other ninja could be heard saying, "What and no way." Sakura looked at the rising dead, thinking, "Fukasaku was dead, I'm sure of it. So what is this? What the hell happened?" Several other ninja started to awaken, moaning, "Ooh." Another shinobi said, Impossible. This can't be happening." Hugs and kisses were given to those that stared to awaken, much to the previously dead's confusion. Elsewhere, Shikamaru and Ino were sitting with a deceased Shizune when she too awoke. Ino was the first to go. "Huh?" Shikamaru couldn't believe his eyes. He knew for a fact Shizune had been pronounced head. Ino was the one to call it. "What's going on?" On Mount Miyaboku, a bandaged-up Gamabunta sat next to the Grand Elder as he gazed into his crystal sphere. The Elder smiled. "It's over." At those words, Gamabunta gained interest. "What's going on?" The Elder's smile just grew, as it was foretold, but I never thought Jiraiya's 2 pupils together would be the children of prophecy, the ones to lead a revolution in the ninja world. Maybe this was all meant to be from the time Jiraiya decided not to give up. That book really was the key to changing the world. In an unknown location sat Kakashi and his father around a crackling fire. Kakashi had just gone through his life story to his father, getting many things off his chest. Sakumo smiled sadly. "I see you've had your share of trouble too. But I never thought we'd both die so young." Kakashi looked down, ashamed as he stayed quiet. Sakumo continued, "Though not as young as your mother." In his father's words, Kakashi gained a little courage, saying, "Regardless of what happened, you did the best you could. I understand now. You broke the rules for all of our sakes. I'm proud of you." Sakumo looked at his son with wide eyes. His expression soon calmed as he smiled, saying, "Thank you." Suddenly, some light hit Kakashi, surprising the younger Hatake. "What?" When Kakashi looked to his father, he saw the man smiling. "Looks like it is not your time just yet. You still have things to do." "Dad," Kakashi said, "I'm glad I was able to speak with you. Thank you for forgiving me. Now I can move on." "Father dash." That was all Kakashi could say, as he was consumed by darkness shortly before awakening in the same area Pain had left him. The Hatake sat up, much to the surprise of Choji and Chusa who were beside him. He looked around in shock, his surroundings slowly coming back to him. Kakashi too. Chooser exclaimed. Choji called out the man's name as well, Kakashi. Said person looked at the two with a wide eye. What happened? A human-sized Katsuyu wiggled up to the group. I'll explain everything. Back in the hollowed trunk of the paper tree that Naruto and the two Akatsuki members were in, Nagato was sweating profusely and looked to be struggling. His hair had slowly turned white through the use of his jutsu. Naruto was wondering what was happening. What's going on? What happened? Katsuyu wiggled out from Naruto's collar as she said, the villagers are being revived. That surprised Naruto. Then, Nagato told Naruto, there's still time to save those I killed when I came to Konoha. It's the least I can do. Nagato was panting as he released his jutsu, having revived everyone he could. War brings death, and wounds, and pain to both sides. There's nothing harder to accept than the deaths of those you love. So you believe that they could never die. Especially those who haven't known war like your generation. You try to find meaning in death. But there's only pain and hatred that you don't know what to do with, dying like trash, never-ending hatred, pain that never heals. That is war. This is what you must face. Naruto looked at his peer, nodding, and I will defeat it. That brought a smile to Nagato's face. Heather paper making up the tree surrounding them started to peel apart as Konan slowly deactivated her jutsu. Light shined through, warmth washing over the three. Nagato continued, my role is over now. Konan's paper spread out over the sky, going to collect Yahiko's body and bring it back to their location. Several minutes passed as Yahiko's body came through the foliage surrounding them, levitating over to their positions. Konan enveloped Nagato and Yahiko in a tomb of her paper as their bodies hovered in the air beside her. Naruto looked as the paper finished up in wrapping Yahiko's body. You're taking him too? Konan answered, this god realm pain was created from Yahiko's corpse. He was someone very special to us. Naruto merely nodded, not caring if she saw him do it or not. He understood why she would take it. What about you? I don't want to think you'd just returned to Akatsuki. She shook her head, I'm through with Akatsuki. Yahiko and Nagato were everything to me. Yahiko's dream and Nagato's dream, if they've entrusted their dreams to you, then now you are their dreams. Nagato believed in you, so I believe in you too. A Mega Q will help you make that dream come true. Naruto nodded, thank you for your support. He then continued, if a Mega Q is ever in trouble, Akatsuki or otherwise, I want you to send for me. I don't care if it is only on a hunch or an assumption. If you feel something bad is about to go down, let me know. I will help in whatever way I can. Konan looked at Naruto's determined eyes, getting lost in their blue color. The way he talked made her understand the strength of his words, and reminded her of her lost love. Yahiko, I understand. Thank you. Naruto smiled as Konan made her way back to Omega-Q. The Uzumaki sighed, glad that this was finally over. Well, at least his fight with pain was over. He had some other things to tend to as soon as possible. The boy turned back to the direction of his village and headed back, leaping through the trees. Naruto slowed down on his way back, finding it harder to travel as the toll of his fight was finally catching up to him. While he still had Kyuubi's endless chakra to dip into, he decided against it because doing so would require him to activate Mesame. He found no real reason to do so since he figured he could make it back to the village on his own. However, he was finding it harder to do so, and he soon found himself walking on the ground. In his tiredness, Naruto accidentally tripped and fell forward. He would have fallen on his face had someone not appeared and caught him. He looked over to the person with heavy eyelids, seeing his teacher, Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi did one of his eye smiles, good job. He turned and picked his student up, giving the boy a piggyback, just hang on. They made their way back to the village. On their way, Naruto chuckled, gaining Kakashi's attention. What is it? Naruto's chuckles died down so he could explain, this reminds me of when you were too tired to move after we saved Gaara, and how Gaara-sensei had to carry you back to Konoha like this. Kakashi's sweat dropped, looking forward with a ruthful smile, I'm going to forget you said that. Naruto just continued to chuckle. Before long they emerged from the foliage of the surrounding forest and were surprised to see the entire populace of Konoha congregated at their location. The population saw the two coming. When they emerged, there were hoots and hollers as a chorus of yells washed over the crowd. Welcome back. We believed in you. You're a hero, Naruto. Thank you, Tilda. Welcome home. Naruto was stunned at the amount of people that welcomed him back. Ninja and civilians alike were all around to see him. Kakashi looked out the corner of his eye to Naruto. They've all been waiting for your return. The Hokage then remembered some of the first words he had ever heard the boy say. My dream is to be greater than any Hokage. I'll make everyone in the village acknowledge my existence. Naruto to Kakashi thought to himself as he put the boy down. You did great. The people of Konoha ran to Naruto, yelling things such as welcome home. And Naruto. Katsuyu once again wriggled from beneath Naruto's collar as she told him, I told them everything that happened. Most of the children and older teens came right up the Uzumaki, grabbing onto him and asking, what was he like? And, are you hurt? Wah! Naruto called out as the children pushed him around, OW. Don't shove. ACK. Don't touch me there. The parents and older generations of the village looked on with smiles, laughing at their innocence. Fukasaku and Shima sat on Gamakichi's head as they watched from afar. There were choruses of laughter and cheering as everyone was glad to be done with these hard times. Hinata was crying next to Shino and Kiba, thinking, thank God, Naruto. Sakura was the first of Naruto's own friends to come forward. The younger generations parted to make way for their hero's teammate. When he saw her coming, Naruto said, Sakura. She swatted his head down, much to the younger kid's horror. The hero of Konoha yelled, OW. Sakura shouted over his pained noises, you're always so rash. Dummy. She immediately grabbed the side of his head and hugged him. Her actions calmed Naruto's young admirers as she embraced him. Tears were forming in the corner of her eyes as she nuzzled the side of her head against his, thank you. The act of affection brought smiles to everyone's faces. Iruka was among the crowd, smiling as he remembered Naruto in his academy years and how he was an isolated child. As he watched the people around Naruto grab him and threw him into the sky in celebration, Iruka's smile couldn't help but grow into a full-blown grin. Unbeknownst to the Chunin instructor, he was shifting his headband up and down, much like he'd seen Naruto do in his younger years in happiness. Far from the outskirts of Konoha, the plant-like Akatsuki member Zetsu appeared from the side of a tree. I never thought pain would be defeated. We'd better tell Toby let's go. Zetsu faded back into the tree as quick as he came out. Things were beginning to slow down within Konoha. It had been 2 days since the ending of Pain's attack and the reconstruction of Konoha was already taking place. Luckily, Pain's attack did not reach the outer rim of Konoha, leaving such things as the Hokage's office and monument, and Konoha's cemetery, safe. Naruto was standing in front of a tombstone at the cemetery. It was a separated section of the cemetery from the memorial stone that most ninja who were KIA had their names engraved on. The section he was currently in was reserved for the high-ranking ninja, or those that got special permission to have their own burial. His hand was on the top of the cold marble structure as he looked at the name engraved on it. Tsurutobi Hiruzen, Sandaime Hokage. A loving father and husband. One of Konoha's greatest leaders. Below that were his last words. Beside this tombstone was another that read, Tsurutobi Asuma, Jounin. A loving teacher and husband. Naruto continued to look at the Sandaime's tombstone sorrowfully. A smile graced his face. Oyaji, give me the strength required to do what I must. Naruto's hand slipped from the rock as he turned and headed for the summit that was currently being held to decide a temporary Hokage. I will follow your words, Jiji. Naruto's will of fire blazed bright within him as he made his way to the meeting. Naruto remembered the Sandaime's final words from that day 11 years ago. Naruto, even if I was to be killed, the pillar of Hokage would not crumble. I'm the man who inherited the will of Konoha, the will of the first and second. I am the third. No matter who targets Konoha, there'll be a new Hokage that'll inherit my will. The Sandaime looked into Naruto's eyes, telling him, Naruto, become the pillar of Hokage to protect Konoha. Within the dark cave of Akatsuki's hideout were Toby, Zetsu, and Kizum. Zetsu had just finished retelling the battle between Naruto and Pain in thorough detail, so that's what happened. What will you do now? Conan's not coming back. Toby thought to himself, disturbed by the Uzumaki's new power. He turned back to the two before him, saying, we'll need another pawn to sync with Jido Mozo Kizum, you find the eight-tailed beast. I have another matter to attend to. 3 Kumogakure ninja stopped within a forest to rest on their journey to Konoha. Samui, the leader of their small group, said, we are probably a day or two from Konoha. Let's rest here for a bit. She rubbed her shoulders in pain. Why did she have to have such big boobs? They were totally not cool. Omoy, the one boy of the group, sighed, what should I do? Karui looked at her teammate. Huh? Omoi's dark skin became a little flushed as he said, "Oh, I was just wondering what I should do if there are a ton of cute girls in Konoha, and they all fall for me." Karui scoffed, saying sarcastically, "Oh yeah, that'd be a problem. Why don't you just date them then? Go with whoever asks you out first." "Yeah, but what should I do if when I have to leave Konoha, she says she loves me so much she can't bear to be apart? I'm scared she might want us to commit suicide together." Karui pointed a finger at him. "How far along are you playing those scenarios out? We haven't even gotten to Konoha yet. You're grossing me out." Omoi defended himself. "Some guy who looks really hot might come onto you too. Just use the word hottie." Karui yelled. She then looked away, in a cute expression as she blushed. "Anyway, now that you mention it. Some rich, tall, popular hottie might come onto me, you never know." Omoi then waved her off. "Nah, you're just overthinking things. It'll never happen." At his words, Karui grabbed a rock from the ground and chucked it at the boy. "Her you to talk." Omoi barely dodged the projectile as it curved up and went soaring off into the sky. His sweat dropped, saying, "What if that rock had hit a boulder and the boulder crumbled and then the pieces of boulder caused another boulder to crumble and then it eventually caught up to Konoha and created a huge avalanche that totally buried Konoha?" Karui's eyes went white with fury as she shook a fist at him. "You're the one who's overthinking things." Different delegations of Konoha sat around the council room's table. On one side were the daimyo's highest advisors to the Land of Fire. On the other side were the three elders, Mitakado Homura, Utatane Koharu, and Shimura Danzu, the Anbu commander, codenamed Tiger, and the Jounin commander, Noro Shikaku. At the head of the table sat the daimyo of Fire Country. He was a lanky old man who was slowly fanning himself with his folding fan. Homura was the first to speak. "We plan to continue working with the other countries against the threat posed by Akatsuki." One of the advisors closest to the daimyo said, "After what's happened to the village, the Land of Fire will put every effort into getting it rebuilt. First we'll have to come up with a budget and consider the strain on the other countries." Danzu was the one to discuss the elephant in the room. "There's something else we should consider first. Who will be the next Hokage?" Shikaku looked to Danzu from the corner of his eye. "So it's come to that?" The daimyo nodded. No one knew when Tsunade would wake up, so the smartest move would be to name a temporary Hokage. At least until Tsunade woke up. The Jounin vote after 2 months' time into the interim Hokage's reign will be held to decide to keep the Hokage as the new leader, or to let Tsunade back into her office when she woke. If it was the latter, then the interim Hokage would be in office for however long Tsunade stayed in a coma. Very well. I'd thought to choose Jiraiya. I liked him. But he's gone now, so who shall it be? Well, Danzu began, but was beat to it by Shikaku. "I nominate Hatake Kakashi." The daimyo smiled at that nomination. "Aho, son of the White Fang, eh?" "Yes. Why not? What do you all think?" He asked his advisors. They talked amongst themselves, saying such things as, "He's well-known, powerful, and respected, it's true. But don't you think he's too young?" Minato-sama was even younger. One such advisor asked, "Who was his teacher?" Homura answered, "The Yondaime Hokage." The daimyo's interest spiked hearing that. The fourth Hokage was Jiraiya's pupil, and Jiraiya was the pupil of the third Hokage. "There's no problem then." Danzu suddenly snapped. "The third Hokage's teachings have as good as destroyed the village." The man's outburst surprised the daimyo. Akatsuki's leader, the man who destroyed the village, was once Jiraiya's pupil. This is the result of sympathizing with other countries and giving them power. That sort of thinking is weak. That weakness led to Tsunade's betrayal and allowed Orochimaru's plan to destroy Konoha. It led to the formation of Akatsuki and to Sasuke, the last remaining Uchiha, leaving Konoha for his own secret purposes. The man abruptly stood from his seat. "What kind of Hokage do we need now? One who can put an end to this wretched situation and who can bring change to the ninja world and reinforce the laws that govern us. That man is me." The door to the room burst open and all occupants looked to the entrance in surprise. Standing there was none other than Uzumaki Naruto. Shikaku was stunned to see his son's friend standing there. The Noro immediately regretted telling Naruto about their location several days ago. "Damn it, Naruto. Why are you here?" The elders and Anbu head were shocked to see the boy of 16 standing there, cloak flapping behind him. The daimyo was the first to ask, Just who might you be, boy?" Naruto bowed to the daimyo, much to the ninja's surprise and the advisor's expectations. "The name's Uzumaki Naruto, my lord." The daimyo's eyes slightly widened as he realized who was standing in front of him. Oh, so you're the boy who defeated Pain then? The Konoha no Au, hero of the Hidden Leaf. Naruto nodded. Indeed, sir. I am here to nominate my name for the position of 6th Hokage. The Uzumaki's statement further surprised the ninja side of the room, but earned the interest of the others. Naruto continued to make his case. I know that I appear young to you all, but I can assure you I have the Land of Fire's best interests at heart. I too was Jiraiya's pupil, and I too share some of the same ideologies that the previous Hokage held. However, I can assure you that sympathizing with other countries is not a weakness and is not what brought Konoha to its current state. It is because of people who work within the shadows of Konoha's leaves that have made it into the way she is now. If you appoint me to Hokage, I give you my word that I will make her better than ever before. My first objective will be to get rid of those who hide in the shadows. That gained even more people's interest, especially Danzo's. The leader of Root knew the boy was talking about him. Naruto then went on to explain himself. There is a rat within our borders, my lord. It seems that the messenger toad I had stationed here, that was supposed to warn me in my absence from the village, should someone attack, was killed. It wasn't until my return to Konoha that I learned of its destruction. Had the messenger not been killed, I could have returned earlier and stopped Pain from causing all this damage. It took everything Naruto had not to turn to Danzo. He knew his case would be lost if they knew he was pinning all these accusations on someone when he had no real proof. Danzo glared daggers at the boy. It seems the boy had found out about his actions, yet it did not matter because he had no real evidence against him. It's not like Danzo had not planned for the destruction of Konoha. In all rationality, he saw it coming. He needed Konoha to go into a state of chaos in order for him to come out the victor in the end. Pain brought just that. Of course, Danzo was not going to let the man get away with his home's destruction. When Danzo thought it was right, he was going to strike with his army and bring the god down to his knees, coming out the hero in the end. However, Naruto's return thwarted such attempts. Although even then Danzo was prepared, using this as a means to earn him the title Hokage. But this, Naruto's sudden appearance and nomination for Hokage, was something the War Hawk was not ready for. The daimyo was hiding his lower face behind his fan, thinking over the blonde's words. The fire daimyo believed himself to be a very reasonable man. However, he knew that his opinion could be swayed easily. He learned long ago that he was fickle. The thing he understood the most about himself was his narrow-minded view on the differential between the powers of ninja. If he saw a ninja defeat another shinobi, which made him stronger. The shinobi, who was defeated, at another time, beat a kunoichi. From the daimyo's perspective, that made the first ninja stronger than the kunoichi, when in truth that might not be true. Naruto defeated Pain, who in turn decimated most of Konoha and her ninja. Therefore, in the daimyo's eyes, Naruto was the strongest shinobi in the country of fire. Since Naruto was indeed the strongest, that made him a good Hokage candidate in the daimyo's book. His advisors spoke to him, my lord, while the boy makes a good case. We believe he is too young and inexperienced to take the role of Hokage. Danzo is the more suitable choice for now. Danzo nodded. For once he had to agree with the daimyo's advising staff. Danzo then looked at the daimyo. I mean no disrespect. But if you chose Naruto of all people to be Hokage, it would be foolish and moronic. He has not even lived for 2 decades. He knows not what war can do to you. He is nowhere near ready to hold such a title. Although I do think we should reward the boy for his efforts in saving the village. Why not make him a Chunin or Jounin? Danzo didn't necessarily want to be on the boy's bad side, so he didn't see a problem in trying to help the boy out. The Uzumaki could take it or leave it. I guess you're right. That was all the daimyo said as silence reigned over the room in anticipation. Neither faction knew who he was agreeing with, but Naruto was greatly worried that he had lost out. The Lord of the Fire Country closed his fan shut, smiling at the boy. All right, it's decided. You will be the Rokudame Hokage, Uzumaki Naruto. Danzo's mouth was left agape as he fell back into his seat, having lost out to Naruto for the position of Hokage. He could not believe the audacity of it. It was so infuriating that Danzo abruptly got back up and dismissed himself, giving Naruto a threatening glance as he left the venue. Naruto paid it no mind as he too looked stunned. Even though he was preparing himself for the chance that he would earn the title, actually hearing the daimyo appoint him to the rank was marveling. Shikaku and the other ninja in attendance were also bewildered by the daimyo's decision. The daimyo noticed the situation of the room and the fact that everyone needed time to let the information sink in. He chuckled before saying, "I think that's enough for today. We will convene this meeting tomorrow, with our new Hokage at the opposing head of the table." He finished with a smile. He and his delegation got up and made their way out, going to their residential area of stay. The daimyo patted the boy's shoulder as he left, giving him a short congratulations. Naruto then looked to the remaining four in the room, trying to rein in his shocked expression. The next to stand was Shikaku, smiling at the boy for succeeding in beating out Danzo. He was a little nervous to have a Hokage as young as Naruto, temporary or otherwise, but Shikaku saw it as a better option than Danzo. He would wait and see what Naruto did with this opportunity. The Noro would watch his actions without bias, and if he deemed Naruto worthy of such a position at the end of the 2 months, then the boy would have his vote in the Jounin vote. He walked up to Naruto with a smirk. "Well, congrats, kid." The Noro left with that. The 2 remaining elders got up next and made their way to the exit. They were too stunned to speak with the Uzumaki at the moment. Naruto thought Koharu was about to say something to him as she stopped beside him and turned her head slightly, but then decided against it and followed her old teammate out. Naruto looked to the last occupant of the room as a man clad in Anbu armor and a tiger mask bowed before him. He stayed there for a minute before Naruto realized he was waiting for an order. The Uzumaki waved his hand, saying, "At ease." The Anbu commander straightened out, nodding courtly at his new leader, "Hokage-sama, if you would please follow me to the Anbu headquarters. I must assign you a team of your own personal Anbu to watch after you over the course of your reign." Naruto understood. He had always known that the Hokage had his own team of Anbu that trailed him from the shadows every minute of the day. He had always been able to spot them around the 3rd and 5th during their times. It was not that they were bad at stealth, far from it. Naruto just discovered that even from a young age he had an innate ability to know when he was being watched. Whether the Kyuubi had a hand in that could be left up to discussion. Naruto nodded to his Anbu commander, "Lead the way." Tiger did not reply. He just turned and headed for the facility, which was not far at all. In fact, it was the next Hokage monument head over. The Anbu faction was stationed behind the Nidaime Hokage stone monument, the Hokage who had created the first Anbu program. Upon entrance into the facility, Naruto noted it was very much like the Jounin lounge. The only difference was the several doors that led to training rooms and a dining hall for the members. All the Anbu members in attendance turned to the 2 entering expectantly. Tiger's strict tone echoed through the building, "Bow your heads, you insolent whelps. You are in the presence of the Rokudaime Hokage." Upon hearing that, all the Anbu bowed, much to Naruto's surprise. He needed to start getting used to such treatment. He then realized they were all waiting for his orders once more. "You can all be at ease." They did so as he continued, "Now, I was told I get my own personal Anbu. Any volunteers?" No one raised their hands, they all just continued to stare at their leader, as if waiting for something else to happen. Their actions just confused Naruto. Was he that unpopular? Tiger leaned over to Naruto's ear, whispering, "Hokage-sama, Anbu are trained to take orders. They do not respond well to questions. Order them, and they will respond." Naruto nodded dumbly, quietly thanking the man before turning back to his elites. "Let me rephrase that." Naruto told them as a smile was brought to his lips, much to the Anbu's interest. "I order everyone, who believes that they are the strongest here, to raise your hands." He was not surprised when everyone put their hands into the air. They were the best of the best, they were Anbu. It is only to be expected that they had such confidence in their abilities. He would expect nothing less. Naruto's smile grew into a smirk. He was proud of the ninja that were now under his rule, and his pride just radiated off him. "That's what I'm talking about." Naruto turned and started heading out, telling Tiger with a smirk, "Give me the best you got." Tiger nodded as his Hokage left. The Anbu commander turned to his subordinates and chuckled evilly. The temperature in the room dropped several degrees when he sniggered. When Tiger chuckled, nothing good never followed. Time for some tryouts, maggots. Naruto opened the door to his new office. It was one of the few buildings that had been left untouched by Pain's attack. The Uzumaki closed the door behind him. The sun was just about to disappear beneath the skyline as dusk was upon the village. The office was covered in darkness. Naruto could have flicked the switch beside the door but decided against it. The orange light of dusk coming from the village outside of his office was more than enough. A festival was currently being held for Pain's defeat. The reconstruction of the village was underway, with the help of some foreign aides. One that came to Naruto's mind was Tsunade and his construction crew from the land of Wave. That, along with Yamato's Mokuton abilities, would have a brand new village in about 2 to 4 months. However, the village decided to put the reconstruction on hold for a few hours to have a festival, opting to let its people indulge themselves a little. The festive was being held to raise the people's spirits. It was very flashy and illuminated the entire village in bright lights and commotion. Wandering vendors had set up shop, and some of the few already built restaurants and bars were abuzz with people waiting in lines out their doors. As Naruto made his way across the office, he noticed a package on his desk. It was a box that weighed a couple pounds. The present looked like it held an article of clothing. Naruto squinted to see the note tapped to its cover. The note read, "You have a striking resemblance to that of the fourth Hokage, so I wanted you to have this. I always liked Minato and that cloak of his. I made the same kind for any future Hokage who were interested. I feel that it suits you. I look forward to seeing what you can do as Hokage. Hopefully you are made a permanent Hokage when the time comes. Good luck. Sir Shijimi, daimyo of the Land of Fire." The daimyo's insignia followed. Naruto opened the box and found that it was a cloak much like his own, except this one was entirely white with red flames that trailed around the bottoms. Naruto could tell from the touch that it was made from some of the finest cloth. It was very soft and smooth, yet firm enough to withstand the life of a ninja. He pulled it out the box and let it unfold to get a good look at it. In red kanji, down the middle of its back, was the words Rokudame Hokage. He also noticed the thread that connected the front of the cloak's neckline. Naruto slid his own cloak off and replaced it with the one given to him. He finished getting it on as he clipped the one line of thread that connected the opening of the cloak together. He looked down at his front and then back to the best of his abilities. It was a perfect fit over his jumpsuit. He folded his previous cloak up and let it sit on the box at the corner of his desk, making a mental note to thank the daimyo at tomorrow's meeting. The Uzumaki walked around his desk and sat at his chair, turning so he could lean back and still look over his village from the window. He let out a heavy sigh. Today was one of the longest days he had ever had, and the sad truth was, he had much more to do. He just needed a minute to relax. His mind wandered to the Jounin vote that would be held in 2 months. He did not believe in the slightest that he had a majority of the Jounin's votes. Even though he did indeed protect the village from pain, it did not necessarily make him Hokage material, contrary to whatever the daimyo believed. He knew everyone still saw him as the dim-witted and annoying kid that defined him for much of his life. He had been trying to change that ever since he had gotten back from his training trip with Jiraiya, but he had hardly made any improvement with the higher-ups of the village. He needs to sway the Jounin's opinion of him within the next 2 months, and that was going to be a challenge. Although, he knew he could do it. If his father, he was still giddy about saying that, Jiraiya and Kyuubi could have faith in him, then he could have it in himself. After the Jounin vote, if they voted in favor of him, then his Hokage inauguration would be announced. However, he would not be surprised if his promotion to Hokage was already known to the entire village. It had been about an hour since the end of the meeting. However, this was a ninja village, and news spread like wildfire when you did not try your hardest at keeping it a secret. The minute he had to relax felt like it only lasted a second as there was a knock on his door. He was still leaning back in his chair when he wobbled his feet back and forth, slowly turning to face the door to his office. Naruto leaned into his chair more, thinking it would be funny to see whoever was behind the door's reaction to seeing their Hokage in such a position. Though he grunted in frustration that his peace was interrupted, "Come on in." Naruto's heart dropped when Danzo came walking in. The Uzumaki immediately sat up in his chair, not wanting to let this man see him like that. Danzo did not seem to notice the boy's sudden movement as his mind was elsewhere. Naruto let out a low growl with hardened eyes. "What do you want?" Danzo's one visible eyebrow rose, so much hostility. "What for, Hokage-sama?" Naruto could clearly hear the way Danzo spat out Hokage. Naruto knew he could not just come right out and say that he knew all about Danzo and the stuff he had been up to. However, he could come close to it. "You do not have to put up an act. I know more than you think, Danzo." That surprised Danzo, but he did not show it. His stoned expression did not falter. "So what then? You obviously hold no trust for me and have openly shown that you hate me. Are you going to strip me of my title? Send me to jail? Erase all the work I have done to get where I am today? I can assure you that no matter what you do, I will always come back." Danzo was sure that Naruto had no evidence against him, whether the brat knew things or not. Thus, he was not afraid of any accusations that the child could make. Even the Hokage could not send someone in Danzo's position to their death without proof behind their reasons. And if Naruto could not kill Danzo, then the War Hawk knew he had won. Because Danzo knew that no matter what the Uzumaki tried to do, he would always find a way back. It was what he had been doing all his life. The position of Hokage would someday be his, he was certain of it. Danzo's musings were interrupted by confusion when Naruto chuckled, "No, Danzo. I do not intend on taking anything from you, contrary to what you may believe." His words just confused the Chimera even more. "You see, Danzo, I have already won. I am Hokage, you are not. There is no one higher than me. There is no one that I must answer to. This battle is over, Danzo. I will always keep you under my thumb, and I will wait. Wait for the one day you slip up. When that day arrives, I will crush you like the insect you are." The boy's words infuriated Danzo to no end, so much so that he turned and left. How dare that boy speak to him in such a way? Who was he to talk to his elder like that? As Danzo made his way out of the Hokage's building, he was already devising a new means to obtain the power of Hokage. He was finding it hard to come up with a sound and reasonable plan until he remembered Naruto's words. "There is no one higher than me. There is no one that I must answer to." Danzo smirked wickedly as a new idea of rising to power began to develop. Naruto was a fool to think that there was no one who was of higher rank than the Hokage. There was, in fact, one such person that all Hokage must answer to. That was the daimyo of the Fire Country. Danzo was getting excited as his new plan folded out in his head. Naruto would regret ever trying to cross Chimera Danzo of any. He would make sure the boy paid for his ignorance. All the while, the commander of Eni was completely unaware that he had already fallen into Naruto's trap. Sakura and Shizune sat at Tsunade's bedside. She was still in a coma and appeared to be nothing but a frail version of her former self. They were located in one of the newly constructed buildings in the village as the commotion from the festival outside was almost completely muffed by the wood walls. News of Naruto's promotion to Hokage was flooding the streets like wildfire. It only helped to amplify the celebration. Most of Naruto's own generation and the rest of the ninja populace were still in shock from the discovery. It was actually the very topic Sakura and Shizune had been talking about when someone knocked on the wood door to their room. Shizune got up and went over to the door. When she opened it, she was shocked to find their new Hokage, Naruto, standing in the doorway. She dumbly backed up and beckoned him to enter, bowing respectively. When Sakura saw her teammate, she followed Shizune's example, no matter how weird it felt. When the Haruno learned of her teammate's new position, it was an understatement to say that she was dumbfounded. She had been used to his ramblings about being Hokage, but to her they were just hollow statements. She never really believed he could actually become Hokage, no matter how much she hated herself after thinking that. But who could blame her? This was Naruto she was talking about, the dropout and most annoying kid that ever graduated from the academy. There was no way someone like him could have become the Hokage. Yet, he proved everyone wrong and did just that. Naruto told them to stop bowing, finding it too weird. Sakura stood and just stared at Naruto, mesmerized by the way he looked. Not counting 2 days ago when she saw an exhausted Naruto, this was the first time in over a month since she had actually seen the new Naruto. That month of separation had felt like an eternity. He looked so different now, while not very much physically. Except for the cloak, he looked identical to the idiot she had come to love as a brother. However, he was still different in every other way. The way he now walked radiated with power. Even now, the two Kunoichi could tell that he was on guard. The way he walked just reflected in the way he talked. He commanded obedience and was stern with his language. This authoritative Naruto was completely new to her. She was shocked when Naruto did not even spare her a single glance as he walked past the two and kneeled down beside Tsunade's futon. Naruto did not look at either of the two as he asked, "Can you two please leave us? I wish to speak to Tsunade-bachan alone. Go enjoy the festival." Sakura was too stunned to talk. Shizune did all the talking for her, of course, Hokage-sama. The older Kunoichi grabbed the Haruno and pulled her out the room, following the reigning Hokage's orders, much to Sakura's protest. Naruto looked at Tsunade's weakened and sleeping form in silence with an emotionless expression. He lost track of how long he stared into her aged and wrinkled face. However, no matter how much he tried, he could not keep down the emotions that were bubbling up in him. They just kept bursting back up. sorrow, sadness, and most of all, regret. Regret that he did not return sooner and stop pain from putting Tsunade, his surrogate mother, in the state that she was. He leaned forward and dug his face into the nape of her neck, tears falling freely from his cheeks. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I should have finished my training quicker and come back, and then I could have saved you. It's my fault you're in this condition. It took Naruto a couple minutes to rein in his emotions. He looked at her unmoving form again. I promise I will live up to the example you set. A sad smile graced his lips. Although I do intend to keep the title. So don't think that just because you wake up, you'll be getting your hat back. You're going to have to pry it from my cold dead hands, old woman. Naruto wiped away his drying tears with his shoulder, vowing to himself and Tsunade that he would never cry again. A Hokage did not show weakness. He did not let his emotions run him. He was the epitome of power, and was an example that all shinobi should follow. Naruto stood with an even stronger resolve before bowing to the previous Hokage. He turned and proceeded to head out. He once again ignored the two kunoichi that were waiting just outside, intent on going about his business. His silence once again shocked the two as they tried to get his attention. He wanted to talk to Sakura, but he was just too busy. He sunshined into a cloud of smoke before either of the girls could approach him. Kakashi was standing in front of the memorial stone with his hands stuffed in his pockets. He could hear the commotion in the nighttime air from the festival being held across the village. However, he did not intend on going as he was busy conversing with Obito and Rin about his day and its craziness. His head slightly rose as he sensed Naruto. The Jounin was surprised that he had not noticed his student until he was standing directly beside him. Naruto? Kakashi asked, turning his head to look at him. Like most of his peers, Kakashi was stunned to find out his student was now Hokage. Temporarily, but Hokage, nonetheless. When Kakashi saw the side of Naruto's body, he had to do a double take because at first glance he could have sworn he saw the fourth Hokage. He was not jealous that his student had taken the position of Hokage, far from it. He never wanted the title of Hokage, and if it had been offered to him he would have swiftly declined. He just did not want that kind of responsibility on his shoulders. However, he did not think any of his students at their age, especially Naruto, was ready for such a thing. And to see Naruto holding the same title his sensei once had, it was just disrespectful. It was also the reason the first thing that came out his mouth was not congratulation for the boy's dream coming true, but instead a question, "What are you doing here?" Naruto continued to stare at the stone his sensei was previously looking at. He did not reply to his sensei's question, he merely asked one of his own, "How come you're not at the festival?" Kakashi did not like the way Naruto dodged his question, Hokage or not, he was still his student. Kakashi decided to not answer the Uzumaki's question, countering with, "I could ask the same of you." Naruto's attention never left the stone, but he could hear the tone Kakashi was giving him. He then realized that even his own sensei did not believe he was ready for the title of Hokage. It did not show, but Naruto was hurt to know that his sensei would probably not vote in his favor at the Jounin vote. Naruto answered his sensei, "I'm here to see an old friend." Kakashi's eyebrow rose in confusion. Kakashi did not know of any people, other than Jiraiya, who were close to the boy and dead. It could have been Jiraiya, since his name was engraved in the memorial stone, but the man had been Naruto's teacher and had died pretty recently, so to hear the Uzumaki speak of him in such a way was strange. He wanted to know just who the boy was visiting. Who may that be? Naruto walked up to the memorial stone, tracing his finger across all the names. He stopped for a second when he came to Jiraiya's, but continued down afterward. "He was my first real friend," Naruto then chuckled as he turned around and started to head for the cemetery section, where his real destination was. "He was actually the one that made me want to be a ninja and become Hokage." Kakashi's gaze followed the boy as he walked away, greatly interested in who this man was that Naruto spoke of. Naruto stopped several feet past Kakashi, his back turned to the man. His name was Sarutobi Hiruzen. Kakashi's eye slightly widened, surprised to hear that as his hand slipped from his pant pockets, becoming slack. He knew the Sandaime cared for the boy, but he never thought they were that close. His ears perked up when he heard Naruto continue talking, "I'm glad you're okay, Kakashi-sensei." Naruto's words actually caught Kakashi off guard. Naruto looked over his shoulder but did not meet his sensei's eye. Instead, he looked off into the distance to his side. "When I came back and discovered you were dead, I almost lost it. I don't think I could handle it if another one of my teachers were to die. It's good to know you came back." Kakashi nodded, silently thanking his student for his kind words. Naruto turned forward and began to leave with his parting words, "Life is short, Kakashi-sensei. Enjoy yourself. Go to the festival and have fun, that's an order." A small smile appeared underneath his mask as Kakashi looked back at the memorial stone. "Sorry Obito, Rin. While I may be against it, he is Hokage right now, so orders are orders. I'll catch up with you guys tomorrow, okay?" The hat-ache turned and shunshined away. Naruto was now once again standing in front of the same tombstone he had been doing earlier in the day. He was smiling at the slab of marble. "I did it, Jiji." That was all Naruto had to say as he turned and told the grave as he left, "I'll be back next week, old man, so don't go anywhere." As Naruto headed to his next destination, his mind remembered the Sandame's words to him about the position of Hokage after he finally became a genin. The Hokage is one who continues to act as the main pillar of the house, protecting it. He's the one who carries the will of Konoha, the will of fire, entrusted with it. I can sense a mighty flame within you, Naruto. Show the world. Show the world your Nindo. Many of the clan compounds were some of the first buildings being reconstructed. As such, the Hyuga clan's compound was already nearly complete. It was not anywhere near as extravagant as it used to be, but it was on its way. The construction team working on it was currently on break as they enjoyed the festivities the village was offering elsewhere. A good number of the Hyugas were at the festival, but many others were holding their own party in the sanctity of their compound. Main and branch family congregated together, putting their differences aside for the time being as they enjoyed their short time of peace with one another. The main courtyard of the complex was abuzz with main and branch members as they mingled together, surrounded by tables with a variety of drinks and food. Hyuga Hayashi was currently chatting with one of the elders, his daughter Hanabi by his side. She was older now, soon to turn 12. Her wardrobe was identical to what she wore in her younger years, just bigger to accommodate her growth. Hayashi and Hanabi's attentions were drawn to the multiple gasps across the party. They, along with the main branch elder, turned to see what was causing all the commotion. They were shocked to see Uzumaki Naruto as he strolled through the courtyard, earning bows and congratulations from many of the Hyuga members. He returned all of them with a smile and a courteous nod as he made his way up to the three. Hayashi and Hanabi were too stunned to even respond to Naruto as he stopped in front of them with a wide smile. The elder was quick to make up for their slack. He stepped forward and smiled eagerly, shaking the Hokage's hand with both of his. "Hokage-sama, it's a pleasure to finally meet you." Naruto nodded politely with a smile once more. "And I-U-M." The elder did not seem insulted in the slightest that the boy did not know his name. "Hiroshi, sir." Naruto's smile never faltered, but he did find it weird that the man kept shaking his hand. "Yes. Hiroshi." The Uzumaki was finally able to pull his hand free as he turned to the two he actually knew. "Hayashi-san, nice to meet you again. After all these years." The clan head of the Hyuga regained his composure, surprised that the boy he had only met once actually remembered his name. He was also surprised it was this boy that was given the title of Hokage. However, after defeating Pain, he found it hard to argue. The boy was certainly powerful enough. The Hyuga never really held anything against the boy like many of his kin used to, except for the times he had pulled a prank on their compound, but other than that he was just some ordinary kid. In fact, his opinion of the boy only increased when he defeated Neji in the Junan exams and thus allowed Hayashi to tell him what really happened to his father. It was because of the Uzumaki that Hayashi was able to get the heavy weight of guilt he felt off his shoulders. For that, Naruto had unknowingly earned Hayashi's vote in the Jounin vote. "It is good to see you too, Hokage-sama." Hayashi returned Naruto's smile and shook the man's hand. He shook it with just one hand, unlike the elder. "What can I do for you?" Naruto let go of Hayashi's hand and scratched the back of his head, laughing. "I was just wondering where Hinata was. I needed to talk to her." Hayashi found it strange that the Hokage needed to see his eldest daughter, but he did not make it known as he pointed to the main house building. "She is in there, talking to her cousin Neji." Naruto nodded, thanked the man, and then excused himself as he made his way over there. He did so while pretending not to notice the hard stare that the girl beside Hayashi was giving him ever since he came up to the three. Hyuga Hanabi never averted her gaze from the man's face as she analyzed him. She heard much of him from her older sister and cousin, Neji. She had never actually met the man, but she did watch his fight with Neji during the Chunan exams a couple years back. She never thought much of the man. To her, he seemed incompetent and just extremely lucky when it came to fighting. When she heard of his victory over Pain and his ascension to the position of Hokage, she learned just how wrong she was. After having been proven wrong, which did not happen much, she made a mental note to look into the man some more. It only angered her that when she actually got the chance to speak with the man, she froze. She did not expect him to catch her off guard like that, coming to her home of all places to see her sister. She was also mesmerized by the way he held himself. That was another thing that stopped her. He walked with a purpose and left no opening to any around. Even in her young age and without the Byakugan activated, she could see that. As he walked away, she was mentally kicking herself for saying nothing. Another part of her was a little peeved that he did not even make an attempt to converse with her. She then had to remind herself that he was Hokage, and thus had more important things to do than hold a conversation with some academy student. Genius, or otherwise. The Rokudame Hokage made his way through the sliding doors of the building's entrance. He was surprised to find only Neji and Hinata sitting there. They were talking to one another, sitting on couches that faced one another, and both of them had a drink in hand. He did well in hiding his presence like he did to Kakashi, as the two did not notice him until he appeared in their peripherals. By then Naruto was nearly between the two. Neji's eyes widened at Naruto's sudden appearance and slight change of wardrobe, as Hinata nearly fainted, stuttering, "En Naruto-kun." Like most of the village by now, they too learned of the Uzumaki's new title. They were stunned to say the least, but extremely happy and proud of their friend nonetheless. Neji, being a Jounin, knew of the vote that would take place in 2 months' time, and as such, had already intended on siding with Naruto. The two Hyugas put their drinks down, stood, and bowed, which Naruto quickly said they did not need to do. They weakly protested, but listened to him. Neji was the one to ask, "Hokage-sama, may I ask why you are here?" "Neji, you don't need to call me Hokage-sama," Naruto told the Hyuga. The Uzumaki did not know if Neji would listen, but he felt like he needed to make it clear at least once, "and I wanted to talk to Hinata, if you wouldn't mind." At hearing that, Hinata's heart started to beat faster. Was he here to talk about what happened when she tried to save him from pain? Neji nodded, understanding what they needed to talk about. He walked past Naruto, letting him clearly know that he was in the Uzumaki's corner for the upcoming Jounin vote. Naruto thanked him kindly as the Hyuga made his way out to the courtyard, saying, "I'll just wait outside." When Neji was gone, Naruto turned to the standing Hinata. She was blushing furiously and had her hands clamped together over her chest. She fidgeted nervously, being under her crushed gaze. Her breathing became heavier as he walked up to her. He then embraced her in a hug, making Hinata gasp at the sudden action. She was as red as a tomato as her crush tightened the hug. Her face was in his chest as she inhaled his scent. The new fabric of his cloak added to the already pleasant smell of ramen that always seemed to linger around him. She was glad she was pressed into his chest, else he would have seen the redness of her face. Naruto laid his chin on her head as he whispered into her ear, "I'm so glad you're okay, Hinata." Hearing him say those words gave her the courage to slide her arms around his body under his coat as she returned the embrace. She was in heaven and wished that the embrace would never end. He was so warm and his cloak just seemed to envelop her. She let out a whining moan when he pulled away, too quiet for even Naruto to hear. The two still had their arms around one another, but now they had enough room to meet each other's eyes. Naruto's bright smile brought a smile to Hinata's lips. Naruto spoke, "I wanted to thank you, Hinata. If it wasn't for you, pain surely would have beaten me. I can never repay you for what you've done. I owe you my life." Hinata nodded happily. She could feel tears starting to form in the corner of her eyes. However, she stayed silent as she knew he had more to say. "I, however, cannot return your feelings right now." His last words drove her down from her Naruto high, but she did notice the subtle hint at the end. Her smile faded, but she understood what was going on. I get it. Naruto understood he hurt her just now, but she needed to know where he stood. "Don't get me wrong, Hinata. You're one of my closest friends and one of the only people who have always believed in me. I do love you. Just not the same way you love me. But don't take it the wrong way." Naruto's words seemed to lighten her spirits as he continued, "I can't focus on such things right now. If we tried having a relationship, I can assure you it would never work out. I have a village to reconstruct and look after. Give me some time to adjust to my new position as Hokage, and then I promise we can give this a shot." Hinata's smile was brought back to her face at hearing that promise. She nodded elegantly, "Of course, En Naruto-kun." Naruto's smile turned into one of his full-blown grins. Shortly after, they let go of one another and Naruto said his goodbyes. She offered to have him stay with her and Neji, but he politely declined. She apologized, but he quickly corrected her, saying she need not feel sorry for showing such generous hospitality. He left after that, saying his farewells to Neji as he passed him on his way out of the Hyuga compound. When Neji went back inside and asked what happened, he was shocked to find a passed-out Hinata on the couch. He was immediately at her side, worrying for her until he saw the dark crimson blush across her face and a small trickle of blood running from her nose. Hinata's dreams had finally come true, and her realization of what had just happened between her and Naruto ran her over like a freight train. Naruto walked into his office once more, this time feeling a lot more tired. The festival was slowing down and people were heading to bed, while others went back to work on construction. Naruto decided to turn the light switch on this time. The overhead lights flickered to life as they lit up the room. He dragged his feet along, going around his desk and plopping down into the cushioned chair. He turned so he was facing his desk. Looking down at it, he saw an assortment of objects on the mahogany wood. There was a bent-over lamp with a switch on the wire, near the light's base. A silver picture frame, which housed no picture. That did not really surprise Naruto. He had never really seen any pictures on Tsunade's desk. Other than that were a wooden scroll holder and a small, sectioned, basket with no handle. Inside the different sections of the basket were paper clips, paper weights, and some sticky notes. Naruto then reached into his pocket and withdrew the leaf he had snatched during his battle with pain. He looked at it and smiled, remembering the warmth that had spread through him when he first saw it. It was still a luscious green and healthy leaf. Leaves in Konoha tended to stay healthy for several days, even after they are detached from their stems. Naruto intended to get the leaf laminated so he could keep it on his desk, but pushed that onto his to-do list for tomorrow. Naruto lifted his desk basket and put the leaf halfway under it so the thing would not go flying off anywhere. After doing so, the Uzumaki went back to looking over his desk. There were 2 drawers, a top and a bottom, on either side of the desk that Naruto sat between. Above his legs was a very thin drawer that, when he opened to see what was inside, held even more desk appliances, pens, pencils, Sharpies, highlighters, rubber bands, quill and ink, and a bunch of other useless stuff. Naruto shut that drawer and opened the top drawer on his right side. There were a total of 5 scrolls. Each one was color-coded and had several of the same letters printed over their binds. The letters was D through A, and then a S. Naruto then realized these were the mission lists. The new Hokage pulled the one marked D, placed it on his desk, and opened it. As he unscrolled the paper, he found there to be separated seals, each one had their own markings to differentiate between them. He unsealed the first on the list, mentally thanking Fukasaku for teaching him how to seal and unseal things before returning to Konoha. Naruto found that another scroll appeared. He took hold of the new one and opened it. After reading the details, he realized it was a request for a mission. It had the description and given rank, as well as the amount that would be paid upon its completion. Naruto resealed the mission and then closed the scroll, placing it back into its drawer. He was aware that the Hokage handed out all missions, so seeing the scrolls was not a big shock to him. He looked into the drawer below the one he was just in and found files. There were tabs to the files, and after reading them, Naruto discovered they were deeds that the Hokage owned. There was a wide variety of things, such as the Hokage Monument, the office building, Konoha Cemetery, and a lot of other complexes that were operated by the ninja of Konoha. As Naruto was skimming through, his finger stopped on a tab he did not think he would see. Ichiraku Ramen? Naruto thought to himself as he pulled the folder out. He looked over it and discovered it was the deed to the land that Ichiraku Ramen operated on. The date of the purchase of the land was around 7 years ago. Naruto's eyes widened as he remembered the old ramen chef telling him, when he was about 9 years old, that they would soon be going out of business. Apparently he and his daughter could not pay for the monthly rent on the land, on top of the money spent on maintenance and supplies. They just did not have the money anymore. When Naruto learned of this, he went to the third, yelling and pleading at him to help. Afterward, he never heard about money problems from the ramen cook again. He had almost forgotten about the incident. A sweet smile broke across the blonde's face. "You're the best, Gigi." He placed the file back where he found it and closed the drawer. Naruto shifted to the other side and started with the bottom drawer this time. When he opened this one, there was a loud rattling noise. Naruto's expression faltered as he looked at the multiple sake bottles sitting up in the drawer. There was a saucer sitting in between the tops of a couple bottles. Naruto sighed at Tsunade's antics. "Why am I not surprised?" He swiftly shut the drawer, ignoring the clanking bottles as he pulled open the top drawer. A full-blown smirk passed over Naruto's face at what he saw. Jackpot! Naruto pulled a rather bulky textbook from the drawer, wiping its surface to rid it of dust as he read the title, A Thorough Guide to Being a Hokage. Naruto leaned back, opening the book to its beginning pages. He was about to start reading, but a knock on his office's door beat him to it. His head fell back against his chair in frustration. He picked his head back up, looking at the clock hanging above the door, and saw that it was 11:09. He groaned quietly, "Come in." A Tsunade came walking in, holding a rather massive scroll. Naruto recognized the man as Akemiwana for the distinctive eye patch he had over his left eye. He wore the traditional Tsunade outfit with his forehead protector covering his entire head like a bandana. Naruto's attention was drawn to the scroll the man was holding. The Hokage put his book down and got up, moving around the desk in a rushed manner. "You found it." Iwana handed the man the large scroll, bowing, "Not quite, Lord Hokage." A couple of construction crew men found it under the rubble as they were preparing the area for reconstruction. "They are waiting downstairs." Naruto looked up and met the man's eyes, catching the Tsunade off guard. He was not prepared for how overjoyed his leader would be. "Well, give them my thanks and a small reward for their efforts." The Tsunade nodded. "Right away, Hokage-sama." The ninja turned and left, closing the door behind him. Naruto held the scroll that Fukasaku gave him and propped it up against the side of his desk. It was used to transfer sage clones he had left on Mount Myaboku to his location so he could dispel them, acquiring their senjutsu without the need to stop in battle. He was glad to have it back in his possession as he had new plans for it. Naruto had a new interest in fuinjutsu he acquired during his training with Fukasaku. He had always known about the style, and Jiraiya had even tried on several occasions to get him interested. It just never seemed like his cup of tea at the time. However, after learning about its uses from Kyuubi, and the fact that his mother's country was actually destroyed because they were feared for their aptitude in the subject, his interest spiked. He made a mental note to visit Konoha's archives and see what he could dig up about the technique. Naruto went back to his desk and picked up his book, finally getting some peace and quiet as he started to read the book. It was around 5:47 in the morning and Naruto was leaned back passed out in his chair, his favorite new book lying on his chest. He had passed out about 3 hours prior, having lost track of time during his reading. He had read about 1/4 of the way through and had to say, if it was not for this book, there would have been a lot of things he would have never been prepared to do. Naruto stirred in his sleep as he heard something beside him. He cracked an eye open and looked to his right as he saw someone going through his mission list drawer. The person did not seem to notice that Naruto was awake. He performed a shunshin and appeared behind the person with a kunai at their throat. Naruto immediately deciphered that this was no ninja. Any graduated student would have noticed the man's sudden disappearance, and any Tsunade, or higher, could have predicted his movements with the simple technique and parried him. The intruder squealed, which confused Naruto as he asked in a deadly tone, "Who are you and what are you doing?" Hokage-sama? The person, who Naruto now knew was a girl, looked over her shoulder at her leader in terror. She had purple hair tied in a ponytail with a feminine suit and skirt that gave off a professional vibe, yet still showed off her curves. She was sitting on her legs and shaking, "I am your secretary and just doing my job." Naruto then remembered reading in a passage of the book last night that every Hokage has a secretary that makes their schedule for the day. Whether they follow such a schedule was up to the Hokage. The secretary is also the person who is to wake the Hokage in the morning, 6 a.m. on the dot, as well as fill the mission scrolls with the new daily missions Konoha gets. At that moment he then noticed the many scrolls that lay around them, unfolded and categorized together. He felt like an idiot for overreacting like that, but did not want his secretary to see that. Plus, she was pretty cute, so he wanted to play it cool. He put his weapon back in his kunai holder on his leg as he walked back to his chair with a straight face. "Sorry about that." "What's your name?" The girl was still a little frazzled at her Hokage's actions, but answered him nonetheless as she pushed her rectangular framed glasses up her nose, while holding a clipboard in her other hand. "My name's Imiko, Hokage-sama." "It's an honor to meet you." Naruto was still getting used to the way people now treated him. He knew it was going to take a while to get adjusted to it. It was a complete 180 from how he used to be treated. Naruto smiled at the girl, looking into her lavender eyes. "Thank you, Imiko." Naruto grabbed the book that fell into his chair after he used his shunshin to get behind Imiko and closed it, putting it on the desk as he turned back to his helper. "Do you know where the bathroom is? I need to take a shower and wash my clothes." Imiko's nerves slowly calmed as she nodded, yes. Go out the door and turn right. Go down the hall and it will be the third door on your left. Naruto thanked the girl and left. He found the room and entered. It was a room full of washers and dryers, washers on the left and dryers on the right. The next room past this one was a washroom. He took his clothes off after putting his cloak up on a hanger and leaving his ninja supplies on a table in the middle of the room. He was quick to put everything else in the washer and head into the showers. He washed and exited with a towel around his waist. The washer was done and he moved them to the dryer across the room. Naruto pulled one of the scrolls from his pouch lying on the table and unsealed another orange jumpsuit and pants. Naruto really liked Fuinjutsu. It just has so many uses. He put his new pair of clothes and supplies back on, along with the cloak, and headed back to his office. Upon his return he found that Imiko was done and all the scrolls were cleaned up and back in the drawer. She was standing beside his desk, scanning through the schedule she had made for her leader. He made his way to his chair and sat down. He then put the Hokage guide back into its drawer as Imiko started to go through her list of things for him to do. Apparently everything on the schedule, besides breaks for food and the meeting with the daimyo later in the day, was paperwork. She had several Tsunade come throughout the morning to drop off stacks of paperwork. Mountains upon mountains of paper. Mission reports, files, deeds, requests, and assigning ninja to missions, they all needed his consent and approval. What was so difficult about it was that he had to know everything about the documents, which meant he had to read everything. That is why it would take so long. 30 minutes into his paperwork, he came up with the idea to use Koge Bunshin. It seemed to work for the following hour, but as he watched the clones do his work, he could not help but feel like he was cheating the system. He was Hokage, damn it. Not those clones. It felt weird to not do the work himself. It was different compared to when he was training with his clones. He did not know what it was, but after the hour he dispelled his clones and went back to work on his own. Imiko never questioned him in his actions, even if she was confused. She had seen the previous Hokage do such things at the beginning of her reign, and did not question Tsunade then either. It was around 9 o'clock when Naruto decided to take a break. When the Hokage took his first break was when the secretary bid her farewell for the day. She was just there to refill the mission list and let the Hokage know of his schedule. After that she went back to work at the desk at the entrance to the building. Imiko said her goodbyes and headed out. Naruto watched her swaying hips as she left. He shook his head when she was gone and stretched. His day was his own now. He could follow Imiko's schedule, or do whatever the hell he wanted. Of course, if he did the latter, that would be frowned upon and show that he was not ready for such a position. On the other hand, he did know that he could not just be some workaholic and have no time to himself. That would make him go crazy. He was going to follow Imiko's planner, but of course he would find time between then to relax or train like he had planned. Being able to mingle the two together is what made a good Hokage. At least that is what his book said. Speaking of which, Naruto thought to himself as he pulled the book back out the drawer. He was about to get up and head out for breakfast but was stopped as 5 Anbu jumped down in a kneel position in front of his desk. Naruto was not surprised in the slightest as he had sensed them coming. The one in the middle of their group stood, and Naruto noticed it was Tiger. He smiled at the man, which did not really get a reaction since he was wearing a mask. Tiger did a quick bow before straightening out and approaching the Hokage's desk. "I have assembled your team, Lord Hokage," Tiger said as he stepped to the side and the 4 others walked up to the desk. They each wore the traditional Anbu armor, and had the Anbu insignia tattooed upon their shoulders. The man on the far left was very tall, about 6 feet 4 inches, and pretty bulky. He wore an elephant Anbu mask. The man was bald. The man next to him was a bit short, or at least it looked like it since he was next to such a large man. The guy had short, spiky, blue hair held back by his Anbu mask that looked like an armadillo. The 2 Anbu to his left were clearly women. They had very feminine figures and their chest pieces left slightly more room for their busts. The one beside Armadillo was a couple of inches taller than him and had flat, shoulder-length, black hair. She had a bare Anbu mask. Lastly, the one beside her had the same flat, shoulder-length hair, except hers was red and the left side of it was tucked up and around her head, sort of resembling a peacock as it splayed out behind her. Her Anbu mask looked like a bird. Tiger introduced them in the order they stood, starting with the big guy. "This is Elephant. He has very devastating taijutsu abilities and is a strong Doton earth release user. The next is Armadillo. He may be young for Anbu, but he is one of our most promising members. He has an overall good basis among the 3 base jutsu types, as well as Kenjutsu. He excels in the use of his Kaiten, fire release and abilities. The next over will be their acting leader, Bear. She is my second in command. She excels at all fields. Her strongest feat is that she has no weakness. All of her abilities are up to par with one another. The last one is Peacock. She is strong in Genjutsu and the art of infiltration. Naruto nodded as Tiger spoke, hearing the abilities of the people that would follow him every minute of the day. When Tiger was done, he was thanked and told to leave. He followed orders and bid the Hokage farewell. When he left, Naruto looked at each of his Anbu, telling them, "Remove your masks." They did so obediently. Elephant had brown eyes and a black tattoo on his right cheek of the Konoha symbol. The man looked aged, probably in his late 30s or early 40s. Armadillo had the same colored eyes as his hair and looked very young, maybe only a couple years older than Naruto. Bear had strikingly bright cyan eyes. She had some crow's feet and looked to be in her 40s. Peacock had dark brown, almost black irises that seemed to go well with her hair. She had a small spiral piercing in her right nostril that gave her a sort of punk look. She looked like she was in her mid-20s. They all stared at their Hokage with no emotion, just a straight face. The Uzumaki ordered them, "Tell me your names and ages." Bear was the first to speak, introducing herself and the others, "I am Natsumi. 44. She motioned to Peacock beside her, "This is Izumi. 21. She motioned to her other side, "He is Daisuke. 19. And the big guy is Kenta. 35. Naruto nodded as Natsumi's arm fell back to her side, her Anbu mask in her other hand's grasp. The Uzumaki then told them, "You do not need to act so formal around me anymore. You are my team now, and should act like you would normally." Daisuke, Armadillo, after hearing this, smiled and scratched the back of his head, chuckling, "Well, that's cool. I hate having to act like a robot all the time." Natsumi, Bear, cast him a cold glance that he just brushed off as Izumi, Peacock, snorted. The redhead looked over at Daisuke, "Shut up, idiot. Just because Hokage-sama said we could relax doesn't mean you stop doing your duty." Daisuke raised his fist to his face, shaking it in anger as he blushed slightly, "I know that. And who you calling an idiot?" Kenta, Elephant, shook his head disapprovingly at his younger peer's actions as Natsumi was now standing beside him, moving out of the other two's way. The 2 older Anbu had been in the faction for so long that their robotic personas had effectively rubbed off on them, more so Natsumi than Kenta. However, the 2 were still a lot more stoic now than in their younger years. They did not hold anything against the 2 younger Anbu for displaying their emotions in such ways. They were young, and would grow to the Anbu way eventually. Naruto's laughter brought the 2's arguments to an end. He was now leaning against the front of his desk, holding a book under his arm. His hands were stuffed into his pockets. The 4, especially Natsumi and Kenta, were surprised when they did not realize the Hokage had moved from his chair. Naruto told the 4, "You guys are very lively. I love it. Now, please tell me why you became Anbu." Natsumi was once again the first to answer, "I merely did it for the pay raise and chance to further my ninja career. I've been in the organization for over 15 years. I feel like I have experienced enough in my time as a ninja and thus intend to retire in another year or 2. None in the room were surprised to hear that. There were very few ninja still in service that were past the age of 40. They were either dead or retired. Kenta nodded, agreeing with his captain, "I became an Anbu for the pay raise as well. My wife was pregnant when I first became a Jounin and we needed more money. I was accepted by Anbu and joined for the upgraded pay. With it I was able to support my wife and our child. My daughter is now 10 and we are expecting another child within the next several months." Naruto nodded, giving his congratulations. Kenta accepted it as Izumi spoke up, "I joined because I lost a bet to my close friend, Mitarashi Anko." Naruto had to stop himself from cringing at that woman's name, "Because I lost, I had to join Anbu. I enjoyed it, so I stayed with it and have been here for the last 5 years." Naruto nodded and turned his head to Daisuke. The Uzumaki noticed that the boy had been staring at him the entire time, but did not address it. Daisuke shook his head as he was staring at the Hokage in awe. When the blue-haired boy regained his composure, he was slightly blushing, I became an Anbu to get stronger so I can one day, hopefully, be the Anbu commander. Izumi scoffed at him, but he ignored her. Truth be told, that was not the real reason why Daisuke joined the organization. Well, it was part of the reason, but it was not the main reason. Daisuke grew up in a family of no ninja, but he had heard the many stories of great ninja before and during his time that fought for what they believed in. He grew up admiring such men as Namake's Minato and Hatake Kakashi. People like that were the ones who made Daisuke want to be a ninja. He trained and ascended the ranks in the hope of meeting those he had come to admire. When he learned of the Yondame's death, it almost crushed Daisuke, but it did not stop him from climbing the career ladder. When he found out that his other hero, Kakashi, was in Anbu, he stopped at nothing to acquire the power needed to enter the cream of the crop. However, upon his acceptance into Anbu, for years prior, he learned that Kakashi left the faction to become a Jounin sensei. Any hope of meeting one of the people that made him want to be a ninja was gone, so he immersed himself in Anbu, following its emotionless teachings as an escape. Through the years in Anbu, he learned of a rising name getting thrown about. Uzumaki Naruto. Daisuke had always known of the boy's existence, he just never really thought anything of the boy. However, when he first learned of the boy's deeds, his opinion was slowly swayed. His respect for the boy only multiplied when he learned of Naruto's victory over pain and the fact that he was now Hokage. The Uzumaki reminded Daisuke of his greatest hero, Namake's Minato. When Naruto came walking into the Anbu facility the day prior, it took Armadillo everything he had not rushed the boy and kissed the man's feet. Daisuke, having found his new hero to idolize, made it his only goal to get on Naruto's personal Anbu team. The fact he actually succeeded and was now standing in front of his hero just made Daisuke the happiest Anbu alive. He wanted to ask him so many questions, and he wanted to prove to Naruto that he had succeeded in becoming a great ninja. However, such an act would probably freak the guy out, and Daisuke did not want his first impression with his hero to be awkward. He feared he had already thrown Naruto off with the way he was just staring at him for the past 5 minutes. Daisuke's worries ended when his hero smiled. Naruto was happy to hear that there was someone like him, someone that had good reason to be in Anbu. The man's drive to be Anbu commander reminded Naruto of himself. Naruto's smile beamed with pride. That's a very good goal. Daisuke nodded eagerly, a bit too eager if Naruto had to say. He ignored it as he told them, I know you will take good care of me. Dismissed. The four went back to business, putting their masks back on and then disappearing as they hid in the shadows of the room. Naruto could tell where each of them were, but knew that any other ninja would have trouble detecting their presence. He held the book under his arm as he made his way out of his office and building, all the while his Anbu were trailing him from the shadows. Samui, Omoi, and Karui stood at the edge of Konoha, overlooking the massive destruction that crossed its land. They were shocked to see it in such a state. The outer ring of Konoha seemed to be fine, but a large chunk of its middle was destroyed. They could see the reconstruction taking place, but they knew it would be months before it was even close to being how it used to be. Tears started streaming down Karui's face as she abruptly screamed, "No way! I didn't do it on purpose. Did that little pebble really cause all this damage?" Omoi was sweating. "Karui, what have you done?" Samui ignored their idiot behavior as she proceeded to look for the nearest Konoha ninja to direct them. "Don't be ridiculous. Let's go find someone to talk to." Naruto returned to his office an hour later. He had gone through the village in secret, not wanting to draw attention to himself yet. He ate at one of the newly constructed restaurants in a henge to keep people from approaching him. He ate and read his book. When he was finished, he returned to his office. He shut his door as he made his way back to his desk, dispelling the henge. He looked to the clock and saw that it was almost noon. It was unbelievable how it had felt like an entire day had passed, yet it was not even half over. Naruto put his book back in its drawer as he went back to work on the papers littering his desk. His meeting with the daimyo was around 3 o'clock, so he had time to kill. Time to kill meant paperwork. Sometime later, Naruto was finishing up the stack he had on his desk when he heard a knock on his door. He told the person to enter and saw it was his secretary. She addressed him, "Hokage-sama, these people from Kumogakure no Soto have requested an audience with you." Imiko moved out the doorway as 3 people came walking in. Naruto immediately looked over the 3, noticing how different they dressed compared to the shinobi of Konoha. They filed in and walked up to the Hokage's desk as Imiko stood near the closed door. The 3 Kumo nin were surprised when they did not find Tsunade of the Sannin sitting there. Instead, they found a blonde-haired boy who looked like he was in his late teens. Now having a young Hokage would not have been such a surprise if it was any of the other hidden villages. However, this was Konoha, the strongest reigning village for the last 100+ years, so seeing a man who looked about their age was quite shocking. Karui was the one to rudely ask the others' thoughts. "You're the Hokage? How old are you?" Samui instantly sent Karui a death glare for her obnoxious behavior. Naruto merely chuckled, surprising the three. He answered, "I know it must be hard to believe. I am 16 for your information." Karui and Omoi's brow furrowed. They sent each other glances behind Samui's back. They were thinking about the same thing. How it was ridiculous that Konoha would let someone so young be Hokage. Tsunade no Soto had already done such a thing, but it was one of the weakest hidden villages. To hear that Konoha had done so too just shined a pall light on it. The kid was probably nowhere close to their Reikage's power. That, plus the state that Konoha was currently in, made Kumo no Soto the strongest hidden village in the world. Karui and Omoi had always believed that the Reikage's words of Kumo being the strongest was true, but now seeing how weak Konoha had become, just made his words ever more profound. Naruto could easily decipher what the two were thinking, no matter how much they tried to hide it. However, his smile did not falter. Konoha was indeed in a state of weakness, but Naruto would change that. He would make sure that there would be no dispute on who was the strongest when he was done with rebuilding Konoha. For now, he let their confidence remain as he asked, "So what can I do for you folks?" Samui told Naruto what had happened with Akatsuki and how a man named Sasuke and his team came to capture their last Jinchuriki. The Uzumaki was shocked to learn that Sasuke had joined Akatsuki, but he was good at concealing it. They were none the wiser as she continued to say that the Reikage wanted to hold a summit that would commence in a month's time so they could deal with the Akatsuki threat once and for all. Naruto stopped the kunoichi to ask why it was being held in a month's time. She said that the Reikage was being very cautious. She and her team were to travel to each of the hidden villages personally. This was going to take close to a month. The rest of the time would be used to prepare and travel to Tetsu no Kuni, Land of Iron, where said meeting would take place. Naruto understood and let the woman continue. She went on to ask for information on Sasuke. When Naruto asked why they wanted such information, Samui informed him that the person he captured was their sensei. Naruto was frustrated by his best friend's actions, but declined their request, much to the others' dismay. Karui whipped her arm out in front of her, blurting, "Why the hell not?" Omoi was also greatly angered by the Hokage's decision. While he did not say anything, he did grab the hilt of the sword strapped to his back threateningly. Being the overthinking one of the group, Omoi thought of the worst possible situation where a fight broke out from Karui's actions, so he wanted to be ready. Samui was frustrated by their actions but did not get a say in it as the three then noticed the four overwhelming presences that surrounded them. Naruto was watching on, no longer smiling, as his hands were clasped in front of his face, much like the previous Hokage had done when she was in thought. He had subconsciously picked up that habit from seeing Tsunade do that on the several occasions that she was serious around him. The four Anbu watching over the entire conversation hid their presence until the two Kumonins showed hostility towards their Hokage. This action caused the four hiding in the shadows to leak their killing intent out, stopping any movement from the Kumonin. The pressure exerted from the four did not stop as Naruto spoke. "Sasuke is Konoha's problem. I am sorry he has caused you such troubles. He will be handled, I promise you. I do not, however, have to tell you anything about him. And if you continue to go after him blindly, he will make you pay for it." The Hokage's words just infuriated Omoi and Karui more, but they had to rein in their hate or else they would be dispatched by the Anbu watching them. Their actions at the very moment could start a war between the two villages, which was the opposite effect they wanted out of this meeting. The Hokage's voice broke through their thoughts once more. "You said that he captured your Jinchuriki. Do you know when this happened?" Samui nodded, sweating lightly from all the killer intent being thrown around. She was going to give her younger peers a piece of her mind when they were out of the office for acting so childish and giving Kumo a bad name. But part of her could understand. She felt the same heartache for her sensei that they did. She answered the Hokage, "Yes, it was about 3 days ago. After learning about his capture, we immediately were sent on this mission." Naruto nodded, still in his thinking position as his brow furrowed. "Then I advise you and your Reikage to spend more of your time looking for Akatsuki's hideouts than on Sasuke. Because your teacher is still alive." The Uzumaki's words shocked the three. The three completely forgot about the Anbu around them as Omoi took a step forward to ask, "What are you talking about?" The dark-skinned man immediately retracted his foot as he felt one of the Anbu's chakra spike at his sudden movement. It takes about 3 days for the Akatsuki to extract a Biju from a Jinchuuriki. However, that is when they have all their members. Their numbers are dwindling. We believe there are only 3 of them left that can actually perform the jutsu. Based on our estimations, that means it will take 1 to 2 weeks before they could possibly pull the Biju from your sensei. Naruto informed them. A smile was brought to Karui's face as she sighed in happiness. Thank goodness. There was still a chance that they could save their sensei. Samui said what the other 2 would never say, "Thank you, Hokage-sama." She continued with, "We will inform Reikage-sama so he can send more search teams out. We will now be taking our leave." Naruto nodded, dismissing them as the ambush killer intent slowly died down. The 3 left with Imiko leading them. The Uzumaki turned to his window and looked over his working village. His thoughts wandered to that of his old best friend and greatest rival, Uchiha Sasuke. "Where are you, Sasuke?" Sasuke and his Taka team made their way through the dense forest, jumping from branch to branch at great speed. As they made their way to Konoha, Sasuke's mind was flooded with images of his family and brother. The final words of his brother echoed through him. "Forgive me, Sasuke, this is the end." Sasuke then remembered telling Toby the reasons behind his urge to destroy Konoha and its people. "If I said I accepted Itachi's will, it would be nothing but talk. The nonsense of those who don't know hatred. If anyone rejects the way I've chosen to live my life, I'll kill everyone they love. Then they'll at least begin to understand hatred." Sasuke was brought out of his musings as he came to a halt, noticing the distortion in space up ahead. His team stopped on the branches behind him. Toby appeared from the distortion as he stood there, greeting the other Uchiha. "Hey, Sasuke." Karen was shocked as she had not sensed him coming. His chakra just came out of nowhere. "What the hell?" Suigetsu cursed under his breath. "Shit. Bad timing." Sasuke stared stoically at the elder Uchiha. "How did you know where I was?" Toby scoffed at the man. "Don't underestimate me. It's within my power." Sasuke ignored his words, changing the subject. "What do you want with me now?" "Taka is no longer a part of Akatsuki. We have no further use for you." Toby shook his head. "I said I'd have to kill you if you betrayed Akatsuki, and you broke your promise to me." This confused Sasuke, but he did not show it. "What are you talking about?" "The 8-tailed beast." Karen argued for Sasuke, "But we found the Hachibai and brought him to you." Toby spilled the news to the group. "It was a fake. In other words, you failed." His words shocked the entire team as he continued, "The Hachibai pulled one over on you. I'm really disappointed in you guys." Sasuke looked at the other Uchiha incredulously. "I saw everything with my Sharingan." There shouldn't have been time for him to split. Sasuke then remembered when he cut one of the Jinchuuriki's tentacles from its body. It was then. Suigetsu took a hesitating step forward on his perch. "So what do you want us to do about it?" "It's not our business anymore." Toby turned his attention to the boy. "No, you will finish your last job as part of Akatsuki. But I don't care about him anymore. There's something else I want you to do." Sasuke eyed Toby, asking, "What if I said no?" Toby answered back, "Then you'll have to fight me to get to Konoha. I won't let you pass." Sasuke was already upon him with a Kaidori aimed at the man's heart. Sasuke was surprised as he just fell through the man's torso as if he was not really there. While Sasuke was phasing through Toby, his words caught the younger Uchiha's ears. "It's a little late to go to Konoha now." Sasuke heard the man, but his thoughts were on their interaction just now as he jumped forward and landed on a branch behind Toby. "I went right through him, just like before." "What the hell are his powers?" Toby further explained himself, slowly looking over his shoulder to the boy. "Your goal is futile now." "Too bad." "What do you mean?" Sasuke asked. "Konoha has been destroyed." Toby's words shocked all of them. Karen was the first to ask, "What do you mean?" Something started to form beside Toby's feet. A Venus flytrap erupted from the branch. Its mouth was completely enclosed, but everyone knew it was Zetsu, one of the remaining members of Akatsuki. He spoke darkly. "I'll explain." Toby looked down on the thing beside him, asking the man, "So, who's the new Hokage?" Everyone could hear Zetsu scoff, confusing them as his darker voice answered, "That Naruto kid." This revelation stunned everyone. Toby chuckled darkly when he heard that. "Ho ho, that's unexpected. I thought for sure they would hand the hat to Danzo." Zetsu agreed as the others only looked on in disbelief. Indeed, it appears Naruto-kun's powers are greater than we anticipated. The members of Taka were in shock. From what they had heard from Sasuke, this Naruto was supposed to be an idiot who relentlessly chased after their leader. However, to find out that he was actually the new Hokage put them in a weird situation. They looked to Sasuke and were further surprised to see the Uchiha's expression. They almost never saw Sasuke in such a shocked demeanor. The Uchiha could only stare at Zetsu in disbelief. There was no way that idiot Naruto could be Hokage. Sasuke felt a surge of hate starting to build inside of him for Naruto. He had never really even thought about the blonde aside from the times he was confronted with the man, but hearing that Naruto had accomplished his dream of being Hokage made Sasuke boil in unknown rage. The Uchiha then realized that Naruto was no better than any other of Konoha's people. When Sasuke pictured the citizens and people of Konoha's laughter and smiles, never did Naruto appear. It was because Naruto was similar to Sasuke. The Uchiha believed that while the others bathed in ignorance for his brother's sins, Naruto was above such actions. The Uzumaki was the one speck of light that kept Sasuke from losing all hope in the people of Konoha. And it was now gone. Naruto was just the same as the others, laughing at him and enjoying the peace that had cost Itachi his life. Sasuke spoke words that betrayed his actual feelings. Whatever. I don't care about that. What happened to Konoha? Toby looked back at Sasuke. One of my minions, Pain, destroyed the village. But because you and Pain have made such a commotion, the 5 Kages have begun to move. They're holding a meeting. Zetsu interrupted the man. I'll explain the rest. Zetsu went about the story, going into detail about the fight between Naruto and Pain while switching between voices from time to time. Through his retelling, the ones listening could only stare in silence at the powers Naruto displayed. Once Zetsu was done, the others were silent. From the beginning of the story, they were led to believe that this Pain was some kind of godlike shinobi because of the Rinnegan. Yet, Naruto defeated Pain and his godlike powers. Suigetsu looked at Zetsu, almost not believing the man. This Naruto defeated Pain all alone. Zetsu's body shook, and they realized that was his way of nodding. That's right. He's gotten ridiculously strong. He's probably stronger than Sasuke-kun now. Most certainly. Sasuke scoffed at the Akatsuki member's choice of words. Hey. I don't care about that. I'm interested in this Kage summit. Suigetsu then asked, wait, I thought your target was Danzo and the other elders? Why go to the summit? Karen shot the man a dirty look, mad that he was going against her Sasuke-kun. He shrugged, defending himself. What? Am I wrong? Sasuke answered the man, they may be my targets, but I have a new one now. Toby's eye rose from behind his mask. He had a sneaking suspicion as to who it was, but did not ask. He let the boy continue talking. We'll go to that meeting and kill the Kages. Our plans have changed. No one could see the smile that curled onto Toby's lips. Good. Karen was frustrated that Sasuke-kun would just change their plans so willy-nilly, but followed his lead nonetheless, asking, so, where is this meeting? She mentally thought to herself, this sure is turning out to be a huge pain in the ass. Toby turned to his minion, Tetsu no Kuni, Land of Iron. It won't be held for another month, so you will just have to wait till then. Sasuke complied surprisingly easy, much to the others' shock. They all began the long road trip back to the Akatsuki hideout. Toby was mentally sidetracked as his mind wandered to that of the nine-tailed Jinchuriki. That Uzumaki Naruto threw a wrench in my plans. No matter, he will fall eventually. I will use the Kage summit as a means to show Sasuke that he needs his brother's eyes. If he is defeated by Naruto, then all the more reason for him to want Itachi's eyes. And after I give Sasuke his brother's eyes, nothing will stop the boy from killing Naruto, no matter how strong the brat gets. There is no power that can compare to the Uchiha's. This plan is perfect. Toby snickered to himself. All the while Sasuke was planning on how he would bring an end to the only man he had ever thought of as a friend. Naruto looked over the field full of Kage Bunshin as he sat, perched upon a large boulder. His 100 clones or so were scattered around, doing what was commanded of them. Half were working on nature transformation and the other half on shape transformation. Both groups were training their chakra abilities with his wind affinity. Another thing Naruto noted he gained after his fusion with the Kyuubi was a far greater control of his chakra. Naruto hypothesized that this was due to the stop in the seal's constant input of Kyuubi's chakra that always used to throw his own off course. Because he no longer had an interruption of chakra, Naruto found that his control was far greater now than in previous years. It only helped in his training with his futon abilities. One important thing he learned after him and Kyuubi became one was that his normal self was incredibly weak. At least, compared to other such ninja as Kakashi, Gari, Yamato, and just about any other jounin that he could think of. He did have Sage Mode and Mesame, but the latter was considered to be a last resort for Naruto, at least he thought so. The prior would take way too long to activate in battle, although he was working on a way to incorporate his clones, and the large scroll that hung from his lower back in a way that would reduce the time 100-fold. Naruto was currently holding a small scroll about Fuinjutsu he got from Konoha's archives. It was just a scroll for beginners, but interesting nonetheless. Naruto turned his view from the scroll's contexts as he stared over the horizon. The stars were bright in the nighttime sky. His mind played over the day's events. After the team from Kumogakure made their leave, Naruto went back to work. He finished up his paperwork as the time for his meeting with the daimyo was close. He made his way to the council room, his large scroll strapped over his left shoulder as it hung near his lower back. Everyone, except for Danzo, was present for the get-together. Naruto was not surprised by the War Hawk's absence. If Naruto had to guess, the man was probably out already planning the blonde's downfall. He shrugged it off as if it was nothing, his attention turning to the meeting that was about to start. Naruto started off telling them of the Hokage summit that would be held in a month's time and how the Raikage wanted to discuss the Akatsuki. They took in the information gingerly and commenced with the seminar. The meeting itself was entirely boring in the blonde's opinion, but he feigned interest. He also tried to ignore the way the daimyo seemed to always ask for his input and would constantly stare at him, smiling behind his folding fan. Naruto was finding it strange how everyone just seemed to stare at him nowadays. Although, he did not think much of it as they had to have their own reasons for it, and to each their own. As the meeting went along, they basically just discussed how they would budget their money and gave ideas on how to raise money and help decrease the time it would take to rebuild Konoha. They talked about fundraisers, charity events, and campaigns. All of it just annoyed Naruto. The Uzumaki already had things planned out for the village, and hearing the people talk about their foolhardy ideas, half of which did not really know how to even sustain a ninja village, in Naruto's opinion, was just irritating. Halfway through the conference, Naruto stood from his chair to gain everyone's attention. He then told them what he thought of them and their ideas, saying this was now his village, and as such would make sure it prospered. The daimyo's advisors and elders were appalled by the boy's rudeness, while the daimyo, Shikaku, and Tiger snickered at the boy's forwardness. He then made them a promise that shocked everyone. I will have Konoha back to her former glory in under 2 months' time. After saying that, he left them. They were taken aback by the boy's proclamation. It would take 2, maybe 3, months minimum to return Konoha to her former self. At least with the way its reconstruction was moving now. That left the rest of the groups looking around at each other in confusion, wondering how the boy could pull such things. There was disbelief in the air, but they knew that if he somehow was able to fulfill this promise, then the boy would undoubtedly win the majority of votes for the coming Jounin vote. Naruto then went over to Konoha's archives. Konoha's archives was essentially a library located behind the Sandaime Hokage's head monument. It was open to the public, except for certain sections that were closed off for ranked shinobi. The Hokage section, being the smallest section due to there being only one Hokage at a time, was locked down with a plethora of seals that made it almost impossible to get into. Only the caretakers of Konoha's archives and the Hokage had the means to enter. It was mostly filled with the previous Hokage journals. Besides their journals were 3 large scrolls, roughly the same size as the one on Naruto's back, that contained many kinjutsu. He noticed one of them as the one he had stolen before becoming a genin. Guess the old man moved it here afterwards. Naruto told himself. However, he spent hardly any time in the Hokage section as he went about asking for Fuinjutsu material. He was surprised to find that in the entirety of Konoha's archives, there were only 2 small Fuinjutsu scrolls. They were both beginner scrolls that went into detail about the sealing and unsealing abilities that pertained only to other scrolls as their medium of use. Something that Naruto had basically already mastered, making them next to useless. His hope of learning Fuinjutsu was quickly dying as he began to leave. He was stopped when the librarian helping Naruto brought him to a new section he did not know about. Apparently it had been closed off after the forced death because no one had the means to enter it. He was told by the caretaker that it was created by the fourth and his wife. When they arrived, the caretaker told him it was covered in almost unreadable seals. The only things they had been able to decipher over the years was that the markings covering the wall were blood seals. Naruto was quick to understand as he pulled the kunai out and went over to the wall. The librarian protested as Naruto pricked his palm, telling the Uzumaki that many people have already tried and failed. The caretaker's jaw nearly hit the floor as the seals covering the wall slowly faded. The woman pointed a shaking finger at the man in front of her. Then that means Hokage-sama, why you read your. Naruto put a finger to his smiling lips, going, SSSHHHHHH. The woman nodded dumbly as she watched her Hokage enter through the door to the room. After he went through, the seals reappeared, locking down the place once again. She turned around and went back to work, pretending like nothing had happened as she whistled a nonchalant tune. Naruto's hopes returned with a vengeance as the room he had entered was lined with scrolls upon scrolls decorating the walls. It was a decently sized room that had a pedestal positioned in the middle of it. Naruto walked up to the mount and noticed a parchment attached to its surface. Naruto looked down on the piece of old paper and could tell whoever wrote it was in a hurry as the calligraphy looked rushed. It read, "To my son, I leave to you our entire family's lifeline. Their abilities and their stories. You are an Uzumaki, so show it with pride. Don't be a picky eater. Eat heartily so you grow big and strong. Take a bath every day and keep warm. Don't stay up late. Get enough sleep. Make friends. You don't need a lot, but just a few true friends you can really trust. And I was never good at it myself, but study hard and practice your ninjutsu. But don't worry. Everyone has things they're good at and things they're not, so if you have a hard time, don't let it get you down. Respect your senseis and senpais at the academy. Oh, and one more important thing about the 3 ninja vices. Be especially careful when lending or borrowing money. Save the money you earn from missions and don't drink until you're 21. And drinking too much is bad for you, so take it easy. As for women, I am a woman, so I don't really understand, but anyway, there are only men and women. So you will find yourself interested in women. Just don't fall for a strange one. Find a woman like your mom. Speaking of vices, one more thing. Watch out for Jiraiya-sensei. Naruto, you will face many painful and hard times. But just be yourself, and have your dreams and the confidence to make those dreams come true. I really wish I could be there, to teach you so many more things. I wish I could be with you longer. I love you. Me and your father have to go. The Kyuubi is currently attacking and we have to stop it. Goodbye, my love. Your mother, Uzumaki Kushina. P.S. Hey Naruto, it's your father, Minato. B to the power of D like my cool guy face? Ha ha. Sorry, I don't have long now. I want to say so much more. I just wanted you to know, as your father, I second everything your motor-mouth mother wrote. Carrot, your father, Namake's Minato, tongue sticking out. Ha ha. Naruto cupped his hand over his mouth as he had to suppress the chuckle erupting from him. His father's antics lightened the Uzumaki's mood tenfold. He was almost brought to tears as he read through his mother's words, but seeing his father's part greatly lessened the pain he was feeling. If Minato was still alive, Naruto would have surely been embarrassed to be around his dad. The way he acted, even through his letters, was just so childish. However, Naruto would not change a thing about it. These were his parents' last words to him. He pulled the parchment from the pedestal and sealed it into one of the scrolls in his back pouch. He then went about searching the room. He found many Suitan scrolls, but his interest lied elsewhere. He soon found the mother lode of all Fuinjutsu techniques. An entire wall of the room was dedicated solely to Fuinjutsu scrolls. The Uzumaki knew to start at the beginning levels, so he grabbed 3 of the beginner scrolls and made his way out. From there he went back to the office for most of the day as he worked more on his paperwork. Aside from paperwork, Naruto began his plan of increasing Konoha's reconstruction in order to help his chances with the Jounin vote. There was no doubt in the Uzumaki's mind that word of his promise to the Daimyo's council about restoring Konoha within 2 months had spread through the village, much like how his promotion to Hokage had. Good, that was what he had intended. Naruto needed the people to understand that it was him who would play the ultimate role in Konoha's revival. Naruto was thankful that he had built so many bonds with people across the world in his younger years as a genin. When he looked back on it now, he could almost slap himself for not realizing just how important these people were. People who were now leaders of their respective countries and, from what he could remember of them, owed him. It was time to cash in such favors and ask for assistance. He did just that, writing letters that were to be sent via messenger birds to the daimyos of Tori no Kuni, land of birds, Na no Kuni, land of vegetables, Haru no Kuni, land of spring, Udon no Kuni, land of noodles, and to the leader of Hoshigakure no Soto, village hidden among stars, who just so happened to be the acting daimyo of Kuma no Kuni, land of bears, as well. Each letter detailed Konoha's current predicament and the help that was needed. It was also asking for an agreement to be made between the countries. With the help of their aid and investments in trade between counties, Konohagakure no Soto in turn would protect the others should they be threatened by invading forces. Another bonus was that any missions requested and sent to Konoha from the others would have the cost of it cut in half. It was a very generous offer, even to the few countries that had their own ninja villages like Haru no Kuni and Kuma no Kuni, though nowhere near as strong or big as one of the 5 major hidden villages. Naruto was sure that each of the countries would reply back in total agreement. All of the daimyos were people he had met and helped in his younger years. There was Toki from Tori no Kuni. Naruto, Neji, and Tenten had been sent to Tori no Kuni to protect the person they believed was the daimyo, a man named Sugi. It turned out that Toki, posed as her brother Sugi, assumed the identity as the cursed warrior in order to kill a man named Hoki. Hoki was the person who had assassinated her brother and father. Toki attempted to attack Hoki, but was defeated, and resigned herself to death, seeing that she was unable to take revenge. However, Naruto arrived and convinced her to live on for the sake of Tori no Kuni before defeating Hoki. The next day, Toki revealed her deception and apologized to the people of the land, but asked to be allowed to continue ruling the land to help restore it to its peaceful nature. The people forgave her, and she continued to rule as Toki. She thanked the Konoha team, and told them if she could ever repay the 3 she would. Naruto was cashing in this offer in his letter to her. There was Haruna from Na no Kuni. At that time 3 ninja staged a coup in the land of vegetables, forcing Haruna to flee the country, and she hoped to gain international sympathy in an attempt to reclaim her throne. She traveled with Kakujo and Yurinojo, posing as part of a caravan to avoid being targeted, and changed her appearance to take the role of her bodyguard's sickly male cousin, Shun, in order to keep people from questioning her identity. Naruto, Hinata, and Chuji were hired under the pretenses of helping the peddlers move their wares in a D-ranked mission, but they learned of the true purpose of the mission after Kakujo's death in his battle with one of the usurping ninja that had overthrown Na no Kuni. Despite their anger over being misinformed, Naruto's group agreed to protect the princess, sending the peddlers away to safety, and defeating the first of the ninja. Haruna refused to rely on them, even going so far as to knock Hinata unconscious to escape alone, despite the Hyuga's attempts to convince her that Naruto also suffered from loneliness. Naruto eventually caught up with Haruna and told her that Hinata was badly injured while fighting one of the 2 remaining enemy ninja. When the leader of the 3 foreign ninja attacked, after capturing the princess's other protectors, Haruna learned that her father had regretted giving Haruna as a hostage and begged the conspirators to treat the people well. Haruna's ideals changed, and she even used herself as a shield to try to protect Naruto from the enemy leader's attacks. Naruto eventually overwhelmed the enemy and restored peace to Na no Kuni. The Uzumaki later found Haruna apologizing to Kakujo's grave. She had asked Naruto to stay and help her rebuild the country, but politely declined, due to his promise at the time of bringing Uchiha Sasuke back. She understood and told his team that, if they ever needed anything, ask. Naruto would be doing just that in his letter to her. There was Kaikara from Udon no Kuni. His finance at the time, Princess Fuku, hired him and Aino, who was to pretend to be her while she tried to drop weight. Apparently she'd gained weight by nervously eating because of how scared she was in meeting the man. Unfortunately, they could not deceive the daimyo for long. They were young, incompetent, genin. What more could someone ask? When Kaikara found out about the real Princess Fuku, he loved her more than Aino, and they married. After joining the 2, Kaikara offered them many riches, but they swiftly declined. He then told the 2 genin that they would always find a friend in him. Naruto hoped, for the 2's sake, that his words still rung true. Then there was Sumaru from Kuma no Kuni. He was the self-proclaimed Yondame Hoshikage of Hoshigakure no Soto and acting daimyo of the land of bears. Several years ago Naruto was sent to the land of bears with fellow genin, Neji, Tenten, and Lee. The Uzumaki first met Sumaru at the border of Kuma no Kuni, where Sumaru stopped them from walking into a canyon filled with toxic gas, called the Devil's Ravine. Naruto admitted to misinterpreting Sumaru's actions as an attack, and had a brief, uneventful battle, during which the Konoha team witnessed firsthand the Kujiku Myoho in battle. When the star that the people of Hoshigakure worshipped was stolen by a mysterious bandit, Akahoshi, the acting leader of the village, charged Tsumaru and his friends to get it back. Tsumaru was taken away by Akahoshi, posing as the real mysterious bandit as the other ninja collapsed from the side effects of their star training. Akahoshi then put him in suspended animation. Tsumaru was then rescued by Tenten and Lee. Shortly after, Tsumaru guided Neji, Tenten, and Lee, with the other Hoshigakure genin, to find the mysterious bandit that stole the star. They all found the bandit, who turned out to be Tsumaru's mother, Natsuhi. Akahoshi used his jutsu to try to kill her. Akahoshi's brief attacks wounded Natsuhi. Then Naruto, Neji, Tenten, and Lee fled to Natsuhi's hideout where Tsumaru and Natsuhi rested and recovered. Tsumaru later awoke, seeing his mother for the first time in 10 years. Natsuhi awoke as well, confessing the reasons why she abandoned Tsumaru. He told Natsuhi to leave him alone and said that he had these dreams where he could not catch up with two figures. Naruto assumed he was talking about his parents. Tsumaru was upset by his mother's abandonment and said that his mother would never do that. However, he was then in tears and forgave his mother. Sometime later, the group awoke to find Tsumaru's mother's bed barren and realized what she was about to do to steal the star to prevent further use. The team of Naruto, Neji, Tenten, Lee, Hokuto, another Hoshigakure genin, and Tsumaru rushed to stop Natsuhi, but were too late. They arrived to find Natsuhi dead. Tsumaru vowed to avenge his mother's death and fled to where Natsuhi's body laid. Akahoshi ordered the training hall to be set with flames. As this was going on, Tsumaru realized why his mother abandoned him and forgave her before the training hall was destroyed. It was revealed later by Tsumaru that he had apparently survived the blast because of his mother's spirit. At that point in time, Naruto and his teammates had already taken Akahoshi out. Tsumaru's final vow to Naruto was that he would make his village the most powerful village in all the lands, and that it would exceed the 5 great nations, even without the star's power. Naruto had to scoff at the boy as he wrote his letter. Tsumaru, even as Hoshikage and Daimyo, apparently had not been doing jack. Naruto had not heard anything spectacular, or even noticeable, coming from the village since then. They were still the same small, and just about worthless, village they were back then. Naruto knew it was harsh to think that, but it was the truth. It only took for genin to take out their self-proclaimed Hoshikage. Such a thing was pitiful. Of course, Naruto did not put any of that in his letter to Tsumaru. That would basically be asking for them to decline his offer. Lastly, there was Kazuhana Koiki from Haru no Kuni. She was a famed actress under the alias of Fujikaze Yuki. The Team 7 of old had been given the mission of protecting her as she finished one of her movies. They were brought to Yuki no Kuni, Land of Snow, the Land of Spring's previous name, under the pretenses that they'd merely be supervising an action film. However, they soon discovered that Koiki's uncle, who was the daimyo of Yuki no Kuni and leader of Yukigakure no Soto, village hidden in the snow, wanted her head. The film crew turned out to be warriors of the previous daimyo and tried to protect Koiki, which inevitably failed. The ninja from Yukigakure used some sort of device called chakra armor to hold off the Konoha team as they kidnapped Koiki. Naruto trailed them, but was captured as well. Imprisoned with Koiki for some time gave Naruto the opportunity to talk with her and break through the cold barriers she had set around her. Naruto was slowly getting through to her as he broke out of his bindings and made an escape with the princess. Eventually, the Uzumaki ended up having to fight the leader of Yukigakure. After some help from his friend, Sasuke, Naruto defeated Koiki's uncle and allowed Koiki to return to her birthright as the country's new daimyo. Thanks to Naruto and his team's efforts, the country was renamed Haru no Kuni as the snow that had made the land desolate was wiped away. Naruto was hospitalized after his fight with the leader of Yukigakure, and upon awakening, discovered that Koiki had given him a kiss in his slumber. She also was going to take part in one of Sennin's books made movie. Naruto did not know if she had or not, and did not really care. As long as she was willing to agree to the arrangement given, he had no quarrels with how she spent her time in her private life. Naruto made sure to finish each message with a sense of emergency, asking for their response as quick as possible. He then signed his name and stamped each of them with his letter of approval. Upon their completion, he went to Konoha's messenger room, which was the very first building constructed after its destruction, for obvious reasons, and sent them on their way. Naruto returned to his office for only a few minutes as he grabbed his scrolls and made his way to a training field, far behind the Hokage monuments, so as to not disturb Konoha's peaceful reconstruction. It was at a reasonable enough distance so that he could sense if anything bad happened to Konoha, and train to his heart's content without any wandering eyes. He made note that his Anbu team did not count as wandering eyes. This is where Naruto had been for the past 2 hours. He let his clones do all of the ninjutsu aspect of his training as he focused solely on his Fuinjutsu scrolls. He had no intention of using his clones for his Fuinjutsu training as he saw no purpose in it. When it came to the method of sealing, Naruto had come to learn one of the most important things about it. You either learned it or you did not. There was no middle ground where you kind of understood it. You were either right, or you were wrong. Plus all the scrolls seemed to tie in together with one another, so he could not be reading one and then have a clone read the other. The clone reading the second scroll would not really understand the contexts of the scroll and therefore would not correctly know what to do and thus not learn it. It made the clone's knowledge utterly useless, even if the original Naruto understood the first scroll's contexts. The clone's knowledge would just come back fuzzy and he would not grasp the second scroll's meaning, which meant he had to read it himself. As he realized this, he wondered if this was also the reason he did not use clones for his paperwork. They were almost the same thing. He had to read it to grasp the information correctly. Naruto's 3 scrolls were laid around him on the rock, all of them open. He just finished reading up on the last one and finally understood Fuinjutsu's full potential. The process of using seals was long and intricate. It was time-consuming, and at times seemed almost tedious. However, Naruto knew if he could fully master the art of Fuinjutsu, even reality would bend to his will. What made Fuinjutsu so feared throughout the world was not its uses, but the infinite possibilities that could spawn from the wielder's mind. Unlike all other techniques taught to ninja, Fuinjutsu was flexible. There is an untold amount of possible seals that could be crafted. Storage seals, restraint seals, transportation seals, counter seals, enhancement seals, and the list just went on and on. Anything you could think of was possible, and that is why learning about the style made Naruto giddy. He knew not to get too overhyped, especially with his Anbu constantly watching him. The Uzumaki then reminded himself to incorporate his elite team into his training at some point, for sparring purposes. He would only do so after he was sure that his base fundamentals were up to snuff. He did not want to resort to his Sage Mode or Mezaim in just a simple spar with one of his Anbu. It would make him seem weak and reliant, in his own mind. Naruto stood from the rock and closed up his scrolls one by one before shoving them into his overstuffed back pouch. When it took him a couple pushes to get the final scroll in, the Uzumaki decided that he needed get a slight modification of wardrobe to handle the overcompensating amount of scrolls. At least until he had perfected the method of sealing items on his body. Naruto then grabbed his Sage Scroll by its strap and slung it over his shoulder. As he did this, Naruto dispelled the tiring clones, shrugging off the mild headache he got as all the memories rushed his head. He had been able to remain conscious after releasing 1,000 at once, so 100 or so was not too bad. The Uzumaki jumped down from his boulder and walked up to the trunk of a large oak tree. Its diameter was probably a yard thick. Naruto placed his left palm upon its bark and recalled what his clones had been learning, putting all their experience into one. Naruto whipped his arm to his side in one swift motion. Nothing seemed to happen at first. Then the tree started to shift, off-balanced as a diagonal line was cut clean through the tree's trunk. It fell to its side, away from Naruto. There was no splintered wood, and the end of both halves of the tree was smooth to the touch. The cut was perfect. Naruto smirked triumphantly as he shunshined away. His somewhat impressed Anbu following close behind. Naruto sat at his desk going through his stacks of paperwork at breakneck speeds, moving so fast that the Tsunades bringing him documents were starting to tire just from bringing paperwork back and forth. As a new stack was placed on his right, it started to decrease in size as the stack on his left increased. It was a chaotic pace that only the Hokage was able to handle. It was early in the morning as Imiko stared at Naruto in awe at his proficiency. It had only been a week since he became Hokage, and yet, Naruto handled it like he had been the head of Konoha for ages. Imiko almost let her clipboard slip from her hands, mesmerized by her Hokage's work. The recently turned 32-year-old was the 4th and 5th secretary at the time that they were instated, and she had to say that when it came to getting paperwork done, Naruto blew both of them out the water. The third, in his return after the 4th's untimely death, was already a pro at handling the job of Hokage. However, both the 4th and 5th struggled in their first couple weeks as Hokage, coming to grips with the fact that their entire day would be work. From the early mornings to late nights, their schedule would be packed, and it took time to get accustomed to such a rigorous change. Ordinary ninja had missions to partake in, and some could spend days, even weeks on them. However, even with the never-ending list of missions, ninja still found a lot of time to relax. Konoha was a large enough village that there were times when a ninja could be left in Konoha with nothing to do for days on end. Through the years, Himiko had learned that all changed when one became a Hokage. Day in and day out they were required to work. To never show fatigue. To never show weakness. It was a grueling process that would by no means end. It made the ninja a workaholic, as it did with the fourth and fifth. However, Himiko noted, they were lucky to have people who loved them, and were able to pull them from the despair that was suffocating them. They were shown that relaxation and work could be molded together as one. They had the privilege of learning from their mistakes and becoming better for it. But when Himiko watched Naruto work, she could not feel the same despair that his two predecessors had experienced. He was just a ray of sunshine that did what was required, and knew to have a good time while doing it. She did not know how the man had done it. She first thought it could have been the Kage manual. However, she then remembered that book had been around even in the fourth's time. The book did say that a great Hokage was made by juggling work and play, but that did not stop the fourth and fifth from getting overrun with just work. It was hard not to with the weight of the village on your shoulders, and the responsibilities that brought with it. With that kind of pressure, it was a marvel that none of the Hokages ever lost their minds. It only impressed Himiko more that Naruto was doing better than them, even with the added pressure of having a Jounin vote in 2 months' time. Himiko watched the side of the man's concentrated face as a small blush graced her creamy skin. He was almost identical to her childhood crush, the Yondaime Hokage. However, Himiko had to argue that the boy before her had to be even better. She did not know why. Maybe it had been his work proficiency, or maybe because he just reminded her of her own youth. Either way, Himiko knew she was attracted to the man. An hour later the clock hit 9 a.m., and Naruto decided it was time for his break. He expected Himiko to leave after saying her goodbyes like she had done all week. Instead, he was surprised to find her in front of his desk with a look of determination in her purple eyes. He also noticed the blush on her cheeks. He addressed her politely, "Yes, Himiko-san?" Her blush increased. It was weird how Naruto addressed people, which was another characteristic she had come to like. He talked to those around him a lot like how the Sandaime Hokage had done in his old age. It was the complete opposite from what she had heard of him before he became Hokage. Naruto spoke with power in a fatherly and protective sort of manner. Himiko spoke up, "Hokage-sama, I just wanted to know how you do it." Naruto quirked an eyebrow at the woman. "What do you mean? How do you handle all the pressure?" Himiko found courage in her words, truly interested in her Hokage's ability to brush off such heavy responsibilities. "I was there when the fourth and fifth began their tenure as Hokage, and neither of them have handled the title with such a finesse as you have." Naruto smiled at her words, causing the woman's heart to flutter for a moment. "Thank you for your words. You honor me." The Uzumaki stood and faced his window, overlooking Konoha as it was slowly rebuilt. "You wish to know why I can so calmly go about my business, knowing full well that the majority of Jounin within this village look at me as nothing more than an idiot." Himiko and the Anbu in hiding, except for Bear, had to flinch at the man's words. While they knew better, they also knew what the ninja populace of Konoha thought of him. It was a sad truth. The ninjas of Konoha's opinions of Naruto had been increasing towards the Uzumaki's side since his return with Jiraiya. However, in a strange and idiotically ironic way, their previously sour opinion somehow seemed to rekindle after his ascension to Hokage. This was most likely due to the fact that many, while slowly coming to understand and acknowledge the blonde, still believed that the interim Hokage was not ready for such a position. The Uzumaki continued, "I have given everything I have to this village. It is my home. I grew up an orphan and was despised for something I had no control over." Those listening knew the truth behind the Kyuubi attack, but had never brought it up in his presence. "There was a point in my young life where I reached a breaking point. I knew that one bad move on my part would lead me to a life of hate and revenge. I did not care at that point, and I was ready to make a life-changing move. However, I was stopped. My first real friend and someone who truly believed in the things I could accomplish showed up and saved me from despair." Naruto turned to Himiko with a fire in his eyes. Himiko had never seen a more captivating sight in her life as she peered into the Hokage cerulean orbs, the sun coming in through the windows from outside outlining the Uzumaki. That man was Sarutobi Hiruzen. He made me realize there was so much more to live for than just petty vengeance. I grew up from then on, trying to follow his example. I owe him more than humanly possible for saving me. I have vowed to the man that I will become the greatest Hokage that ever lived. There is no doubt in my mind that I will accomplish these things, because it is Hiruzen that put me on this path. He believed in me. So you ask me why I feel no pressure, Imiko-san? Imiko nodded dumbly, clutching her clipboard to her chest as the Anbu in hiding were at the edge of their shadows in anticipation. Naruto answered her, what is there to fear when it was faith that got me here? Just as Jiji had faith in me to change, so do I have faith in the shinobi of this village. Naruto's toothy grin never faltered as Imiko slowly registered the words she just heard. She had a small smile and bowed, thanking him before leaving. Once she was gone, Naruto walked over to his sage scroll and slung it over his shoulder, taking a single glance at the one framed photo sitting on his desk. It was the leaf he had laminated at the beginning of the week. His smile was sincere as he made his way to his next destination. Unbeknownst to him, his Anbu team had found a brand new spark of encouragement for their duties. The Anbu team remained silent, but they all knew of the unspoken pact that the four had just made with one another. No matter where this man went, Hokage or not, they would follow him to the ends of the earth and back. Naruto made his way through Konoha at a leisurely pace, thinking about his first week into being Hokage. It had been very interesting to say the least. To start, he was pleased to hear that 3 out of the 5 daimyo he contacted had accepted his treaty and had already sent their people to help. Toki had sent some of her own reconstruction crews that had arrived 2 days earlier. They were a needed welcome and helped quicken the rate at which Konoha would be rebuilt. Haruna was pleased to hear from Naruto after all this time, saying she was happy he took her offer of help. She sent a generous amount of people to aid them, some of which were not even construction workers. They were just sent to help out and do what was told of them, as well as enjoy themselves in the foreign area. Her caravan of people arrived 2 days after Naruto sent out his letter of requests. Haruna also stated in her reply that she would like to come to Konoha and meet with him, wanting to see how he was. Naruto was happy to set up an appointment with her. He wrote back, saying he could meet with her in 2 weeks. His reply to hers was sent out a day after he got her message. Kaikara was more than willing to send his construction workers. Udon no Kuni was not a very large country, on the contrary it was one of the smallest, but the help was welcomed. He also sent several caravans of noodle vendors to feed the workers and whoever else was ready to pay. It was a great business opportunity for Udon no Kuni. The people from around the globe coming to aid Konoha would be likely to at least try the noodles, which would then make them more inclined to visit the land of noodles if they enjoyed the food. Udon no Kuni became known for their world-famous noodles, hence their name, Land of Noodles. Naruto had gotten word that when they arrived 3 days ago, Tuchi, the owner of Ichiraku Ramen, had gone to try and snag the noodle recipe so he could add it to his ramen to make it all the more better. Naruto sighed in displeasure, having not tasted Ichiraku's ramen for almost a week. He got word from one of his Tsunade that the place was just starting to be rebuilt, so he wanted to go and see the 2 ramen makers. Sadly, his duties as Hokage did not permit such things. The only time he took from work was used to train. The only time he actually ate was usually in his office, while he worked. After his first breakfast as Hokage, he learned he could not just go out willy-nilly and disguise himself all the time. It was weird and made him feel like he was spying on his village. After that first day he stopped going out, and instead opted to have food brought to him by Tsunade. It cut down the time he spent away from his desk, and helped to quicken the pace at which he did his seemingly never-ending paperwork. The only reason he never ordered ramen from Ichiraku through his Tsunade was because he actually wanted to see the 2 more than eat their ramen. Do not get him wrong, he was still dying to have their ramen, but again, he did not feel right if he did not eat at their store with them there. He thought about summoning the 2 to his office, but swatted that idea away, knowing they were busy with the reconstruction as well. Thinking back on topic, Naruto pondered on the last 2 daimyo's replies. Strangely, Koiki and Sumaru had not accepted the deal. At least not yet. Sumaru said he would agree to the terms only after he met with Naruto, and quote, see how far he had come, or whatever that meant. Naruto replied, and they would have their meeting in about a week and a half. Probably a day or 2 before his meeting with Haruna. Koiki's reply came the day after Naruto sent his letters out. She was happy to hear from him, like Haruna had been. On the other hand, she wrote that she would only accept the treaty as long as he helped her with a part in her upcoming movie. The filming for it would take place in about a week, which meant he needed to leave by tomorrow at the latest because it took 3 days of travel to get to Haru no Kuni. He thought the request was weird, but thought nothing of it. If all he needed to do was portray a character for a couple of minutes so he could better help rebuild Konoha, he would not argue. Naruto had already contacted his old team via Tsunade, asking for their assistance in the mission, since they were the ones that saved Koiki's country along with him. The main reason he asked for their assistance was for the fact he had not seen them for what felt like ages. He had seen Kakashi at the graveyard the previous week, but that was too short of a conversation compared to when they had been together at other times. On the other hand, it had been over a month since he had talked to Sakura. He had seen Sakura the previous week when he went to visit Tsunade, who was still in a coma, and a couple days before that after he defeated Pain. However, he did not actually talk to her. He was so used to seeing and talking with the two on a daily basis that he was actually starting to miss Sakura's punches, which was bad.